but my dad works at O'Reilly's, and he just comes home because he gets a bunch of farmers every day that are getting equipment for their stuff, like True North employees. They just come, and he just comes home. He's like, "Oh, the farmers are really upset today because it's gonna blizzard." But
They're always upset.
they're always upset. They're never happy.
There's always
nothing you can
something.
do to satisfy them, except see the crop commodity go up by 2 pennies.
Yeah, this will be an interesting year because like they've already sold their crops for this year,
Yeah.
so they're not actually gonna like benefit from the rising prices until like next year,
Yeah,
as far
that's
as I
true.
can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, farming this year is gonna be fun. It's supposed to be unpredictable weather this summer.
Sounds about right.
yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's always unpredictable.
Yeah.
All weather.
Yeah, North
It's
Dakota
unpredictable.
blizzard in April. So
hmm
the river. how
This
high
is
the river
honestly,
now?
this is kind of like we always have one in April. It's kind of predictable, even though every year we're like, wow, this is so unpredictable. But
like there's always something.
yeah, we always have like one last one in April, and then yeah, this
It's
is
like the
actually-
last bang of
Yeah.
winter, and then it goes.
and then the
away.
front like
Just to
stabilizes.
remind you that it's gonna come back. You know, just to remind you it's still here.
It'll be like 7 months, and it'll be back.
Just so
I
you
don't
know.
know. These last 2 years has been like November.
Forget.
Whew.
Yeah.
Right now we're fine, but
I don't know what this is.
this is the Red
flood.
River, the North at Grand Forks, and flood stages.
Did you live in Grand Forks during the flood, or were you?
Did I wrote an award-winning book about it.
Yeah, he's an award-winning author.
Did you write like Hell and High Water, or was that
No.
someone else?
My book was called The Flood of '97, and it was also illustrated by me. I'm a man of many talents, and I won $10. I was in the paper, and I got to read it.
If I could spell. That's how I'm spelling your name.
I hope. Are people seeing the screen while you're typing
Ew.
this? Oh gosh, goodness gracious. Rough
a
face.
taint upon the
Ew.
face.
Blood.
Okay, maybe you don't
Abuse,
exist. Actually.
Savage war.
The 7.
Did you
years
just
old.
not exist?
Yeah, no. I
Interesting.
mean, I can look you up and
I
I could show the public the MMA fight.
Well,
That's-
that's like not really what we're doing. But I have the newspaper clip right here. So
just keep
the
it.
podcast people can't see it, but my mom highlighted my name there,
Award-winning.
and it was a hardcover book.
It was a group
Oh.
thing, though.
How'd you get a
Well,
hardcover?
each score. No. I'm sorry. Each school had a winner.
Oh.
So like I was Ben Franklin's winner. That's where I went.
You went to Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
It's
So I was a
classic.
roadrunner, and yeah, it was the year after I wrote my biography, or my memoir or whatever of the flood of '97 about how we got woken up by sirens and drove to Park Rapids.
Nobody died in Grand Forks.
My dad got, like they had bought their house, the year before the flood,
Oh,
Ooh.
and they lived like right on the river too, so like it was all gone.
Yeah.
When my dad came back to his house, it was literally a basement.
did they have flood insurance?
My grandparents
People
were
don't
really,
get
really,
flood
really poor
insurance.
back there.
Unless if it's in a
No.
bundle, it just doesn't. You don't
They
go
just
out
bought
of
a
your way to
house.
get
They were
flood
like,
insurance.
"We'll get it
Well,
next
you do
year."
when you live in Grand Forks.
Well, now
we have
you
the
do.
dike. We have the dike, even though it got the water almost hit the
Yeah,
monument.
but we
this
still
year.
get like the
Yeah.
ground flooding.
Yeah, it's
Is-
true.
Is that covered by
It
flood
sinks.
insurance?
Uh,
Like when we have our groundwater
like a-
rise?
yeah, like a foundational.
Yeah,
My
and there's a
basement
sump
used to
pump
flood.
goes.
I think foundation is house insurance. I think it's
Just-
different.
Does anyone remember like the ladybug infestations?
Yes.
I
no,
will-
it was Asian beetles, wasn't it?
Asian
Asian
beetles.
beetle, yeah.
I lived
Nobody-
in Minto at that time, which is like in the middle of nowhere. So it was really bad out there because it was horrible. They were
I-
in the bathroom everywhere. It was horrible. It was absolutely disgusting.
I have friends whose rooms would be so covered, they would open the door and it would fall from like their ceilings. Their beds were covered. They slept in their living room until their living room
So,
got
Will
infested.
you Google army worms? I think they're called. Have you guys seen army? Like
Army. Okay.
like military army worms, I believe they're called.
Oh, moth.
Well, before
What?
they're a moth, they're these caterpillars. You guys might see these every now and then,
Oh.
but they have a weird life cycle. I don't remember how many years it is, but we had like a massive. I don't know if it's 7 years or 14 years, something along those lines, but in like 2006, it was like the main year. And so everything was covered in Grand Forks by these army worms.
Oh.
They were cocooning everywhere.
10 days, actually.
That's
No.
so
No.
gross.
Like they have a multi-year cycle.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Kind of
they,
like cicadas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So they have like this long
Thatcher.
cycle of like population up and down,
Mhm.
and like the peak cycle, I think it was around 2006 because I was in high school. It might have been 2005. But this entire, like, all the sidewalks were covered because people were just walking, killing these things. All the trees were covered. It was, the whole town was covered. They had newspaper articles like answering people's questions of what these things were.
Mm.
So
I think it
gross.
was
It was wild.
That'd
2
be
years
so
ago.
gross.
It was really gross.
2 or 3 years ago, maybe. Devil's Lake had a really bad mayfly year.
Oh.
They were around until July, but when, like, I have a campground up there, or not, I don't own the campground. We have a camper in a campground up there, and I think it was the second week of May, which was the second week we were up there, and we got up there, and the camper was brown.
That's gross.
Yeah, it was horrible. We could barely get through the door without touching them.
The fish were happy of it.
Oh yeah, it was a good fishing year, and then
Probably
ever
eating
since
the
then it's been
surface.
horrible. But
Yeah.
bugs haven't been that bad.
When was that?
Probably summer of 2017,
May-
Oh,
2018.
man. I hope it happens again.
Three, 4
I'll
years.
get my fly rod out. I got a bunch of things that look like mayflies.
The only thing I have for fly fishing is frogs.
I don't like bugs. Like, I generally like bugs. I'm fine with them, but mayflies are the one thing I just can't do. I don't know what it is about them. I just can't
I think
stand
dagger
them.
mosquitoes are bad
They
too.
smell weird.
I don't get bitten by mosquitoes.
They smell like dust. It's weird.
I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't get
But-
bitten. I don't get sunburned.
In like during mosquito season, which is like when they're really bad, we'll be up at our campground and there'll be like a dark cloud because they congregate, and it's interesting. You gotta watch at night because if you're on an open roof golf cart at night, you'll run through one of those clouds.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
The Lewis and Clark journals are really funny because they start with like the bugs are a nuisance, and then like a week later they're like, this is hell on earth.
They're covered.
It's like every article or every like journal entry gets worse and worse about the bugs because they're like on the Mississippi River, and then they're also like they're having to pull the boat sometimes because it was shallow, and they're
Yeah.
like swampy areas and
Mm.
whatever, and
Perfect grounds
Yeah.
for.
so sometimes
Hundreds
I
of
mean it makes you
thousands.
chuckle, but it kind of I don't know.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Suck.
It's like, yeah, I understand what you're going through because they came, you know, they didn't come through here, but pretty close.
There's some years, actually every year, but there's like, I don't know what they are because I don't think they're mayflies, but they look exactly like one, but they're like 3 times as big. It's horrifying.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're horrifying.
Those are horrible.
And they fly, and they really like to get into the camper and try and fly outside, and it sounds like it's raining because they're so large.
Those are like, okay, I should rewrite my statement. I hate mayflies. I hate the big mayflies
Yeah.
even more.
Whatever they are, I don't know what they are, but they're basically just a big mayfly.
What's worse, despise or hate? Despise. Is
Despise.
that more
Loathe.
severe? Is that more? Ooh, low.
My grandma told me once that her sister locked her in a shed and it was full of mayflies, and she knocked on the side so all the mayflies would come attack her.
That's fun.
I think that's where my hate of mayflies started. All right.
Should we? Yeah, let's get into it. That was a
Just-
10-minute intro.
Do you want
Easy.
8 minutes, 8.5.
That was easy.
to start from the bottom or go to start from the top?
I don't know.
Start at number 13.
13.
Gotta start
I don't know. We probably won't address all of them. We
6,
won't have
7,
time, but then
8, 9,
also
10.
I might not have answers. For
It'll be like
things.
8 p.m.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can count, guys. Okay.
You don't remember your checklists?
It's on, like, the pre-thinged list because I don't really care that much, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, let's start with the aha moments, I guess. From the book. I actually looked into them. Yeah, you've read the book too.
I'm reading them right. I'm not that far, so I don't know if I'll be able to.
Though, this isn't from the book, but it's a conversation we had outside the book.
Okay.
It was moments where people were like, an epiphany of sorts, where you're like, oh, I'm not addicted anymore, I'm not depressed anymore, stuff like that. That came from How Moments. I googled
Oh,
it.
we were kind of talking about like moments of peace or like
Yeah,
yeah,
where, like,
clarity or
clarity.
something. Yeah.
I looked into it. I could find nothing. Nothing. I looked so hard. I looked up everything I could think of, but the only thing you could find was like 2 things on Reddit, and that was it. Oh yeah,
That's
It's-
the book.
Yeah, but we're not really talking about.
the book. It was something else.
Yeah,
It
we
was
got
linked to it.
sidetracked, and we were kind of talking about this weird phenomenon, and there's probably a name for it. We just don't know what it is.
Aha moments.
Where people, like, I told this story, and I've talked to a lot of people that are like this. alcoholic or drug user or some sort of problem, and then common or like I don't know, common knowledge would say like, oh, you need to go to therapy and counseling and rehab and do like all these things, but then there's like a certain amount of these people that have addictions that like wake up one day and they just don't have the addiction anymore, and they're like, I don't know, I just felt fine, or I just decided I don't need to drink.
With it, yeah.
I don't need it anymore.
I'm done with it now. And then it's like, it's real. And there's like some people that think that, and then they like, I don't know, they stop therapy or they stop meds or whatever, and they were wrong. But then there's people that like, they never drank again. They're like, I didn't feel the need. Or, so I told her specific stories, and it's like unexplainable addictions. Like you're not supposed to be able to just be like, oh, I think I'm good now.
Yeah, I don't need them anymore.
Like Forrest Gump when he was running. I'm tired. I think I'll go home now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I wonder how that like works with like physical dependencies and stuff. Because if it's mental dependency, that's probably one of the hardest things to overcome with addiction. But like with the physical dependency part, I wonder how that plays out when you just wake up one morning.
Which
like
alcoholism is.
you get like shakes and you can't function and you throw up. You can't.
I recently watched like a 30-minute video on like the withdrawal effects of heroin, and it's just not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun.
The scenario was like they quit cold turkey, but still, it's just like
Never.
Don't get addicted, so I don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I don't think anyone. You don't really know you're gonna get addicted when you get addicted.
No.
Does that make sense? And for like a while, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are just like in denial about it. They're like they don't really think they are, and then that happens.
If you don't
and then,
do it, then you can't get addicted. So don't do drugs, which
I know.
won't. Or
That's
have.
what a lot of people say, but a lot of people go back on that too, pretty fast.
I lose my car if I do, so I have a deal with my grandma. If I ever do any drugs, I lose my car. So I wonder how 21's gonna go if that's still my car.
Okay. It's a good deal to have.
Yeah.
That works.
She told me that when I was like 8 while we were fishing, and I still remember it. So I'm gonna hold that up.
Yeah. My grandma. We have an interesting relationship. Yeah. No.
Wait, whoa, calm down. There's another thing kind of like that, but you wake up and you speak a different language. Like you've never heard it before, but
That
you can
does
speak it
happen.
fluently, and it's like an actual thing. You wake up
What?
and you just speak a different language.
I'm gonna Google that real fast.
Yeah, you Google it, 'cause I don't know what'll happen if I do.
So you just.
Doesn't seem that risky.
No. C. What's C?
Oh no, I've looked up some things I didn't think were risky at all.
Speak.
We went downhill very
There it
fast.
goes.
Oh my gosh. Foreign accent syndrome?
Yes.
Well, that's a different accent.
No, he woke up from a coma speaking French.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's like. Why do I wake up?
Oh my
speaking
god,
a
there's
different-
so many!
Why do I wake up speaking a different language? I wish I could do
It
that.
keeps saying accent.
It's accent. Some people say they woke up speaking French or Spanish though.
Accents.
I
Speaking
don't see that.
Swedish, speaking Mandarin. Weird.
It says foreign accent again.
Okay,
Could be
well,
accent.
I also saw one that said language.
Brain damage. That could be you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna start speaking Swedish.
You're gonna start speaking Swedish.
I do, like, people that are high on empathy will immediately adopt accents. Like when I went to Georgia and I ordered fries, I immediately, like, had a southern accent.
That's insane. What's gonna happen when am I gonna
And I
come back
started
from
speaking,
Dallas? Just start.
My uncle is from Iran, and so he speaks with a Persian accent. And when I'm talking to him, instead of him, like adapting my English patterns, I start speaking like a Persian that doesn't, like, I start, like, speaking like he speaks.
I think that's a question. Actually.
It's like it's mirroring of some kind.
Yeah, it's like. Okay, so it's not a question, but it's something I was thinking about earlier.
Yeah,
Cause
so it's not really a different language.
yeah,
There is a story of someone who woke up from a coma speaking a different language.
there's a few. I think it's accents instead of languages. I think they mix
Yeah.
that up, but what it was basically, and this isn't really, it's not the same thing, but there's like certain patterns of speech patterns that are like formal, right? And there are certain ones that aren't. And me and my sister, we joke around. We say that like our formal patterns of speech is our white person voice,
Okay.
and then our not is our Korean voice, because there's like certain slang we use that other people don't use, right?
Sure.
And I was talking to my mom about that, and she was like, well, why is speaking formally a white thing and not speaking formally not a white thing? It should just be speaking formally.
Well, so it's the English language, right?
Yeah.
So the English way would be the original way. So like it's like orthodox. You know the word orthodox, right?
Yeah.
It's like what's endorsed by institutions and stuff like that. So the original way of speaking is like the highest way.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people who use like the same slang as me and as I do, and they can get away with that. Like with a lot more than I can, or and maybe that's just.
I think you're talking about code switching.
Ah,
So-
there he is.
Yeah,
That's the word.
Code switching is a real thing. You know, where like, yeah, how you talk to your friends is not how you talk when you're at a job.
Yeah.
Like if
That's
you have
very true.
yeah, if you have a bunch of executives in a board meeting, they're
They're
not
not
going to
gonna-
speak the same way that they would as soon as they leave, go home and have a barbecue with their
Yeah,
family.
that's true.
And yeah, there's a lot of literature and stuff like that. But like most things in social science, most of this isn't provable. You can have theories because it's not mathematics. In social science, we're kind of just giving our best guesses. And it's like an uncomfortable thing to admit when you're a social scientist that you can't actually prove anything that you say.
You can come very, very, very close to proving it.
Well,
but you
you
can't
can
prove
think
anything.
so.
Yeah.
And like history is a great example of like we gather a bunch of people's accounts, but that doesn't mean that when you put everyone's accounts together that you still have a full story or that they told the truth or whatever.
There might be things missing.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that like it came up today. If it wasn't recorded, it didn't get written down, or like someone said today like, "Oh, you're 1-0." I'm like, "Well, that's what the internet says. Does that mean that that's
that was
necessarily
in
what I am?"
second period, yeah.
Yeah. So if it's not recorded, does that mean it never happened, right? So there's problems with like claiming. There's truth claims,
Yeah.
right? And really, like the only real science is mathematics, and then everything that follows after that becomes less and less truthful, and you start making guesses, and doing your best.
That's why
As long as you
psychiatry
try
is
your
into
best.
provable science.
Yeah, it's not science because it's not repeatable. Like not every person's the same.
Yeah, nobody is.
If it was that way, it would be like when people have a problem, you'd just be able to follow a 1, 2, 3, 4 like step-by-step guide on how to fix people.
Yeah.
But
That
that's
doesn't
not the
exist.
case. So even people with the same disorder aren't necessarily treated the exact same way.
No, everyone has different experiences. and
Exactly.
Different, like
That's why it's not a
chemicals.
science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next up, nihilism. Yay or nay?
Nay.
Wait, I'm lost. This one lost me. Nihilism?
Nihilism is when you
Ah.
believe that nothing matters.
Like
Oh.
nothing matters. Like there is no point to life.
And what was your answer?
Nay.
Yeah.
It's self-defeating. It actually makes no sense.
Yeah. Nah.
It's like the thing when shoot, I'm forgetting the name of the paradox. I got to go back to college and review.
Just go
So
back
there's
to
a name
college.
for this paradox where like somebody says everything I'm about to tell you is a lie. And then you have to ask the question, well, is that a lie? Right? And so then nihilism would be the only truth in life is that there is no truth. Well, is that a truth?
Yeah.
That's as far as that philosophy goes.
Yeah.
It's actually like the shortest dead end you will ever experience in philosophy, and yet people get
Very passionate.
they're attracted to it because it's really easy. And the whole point of life, the whole point of universities, the whole point of education, the whole point of philosophy, all of these things are aimed at why am I here, right? What is the point of life? What is truth? What is good, right? What are you like defining things and then helping yourself make better decisions? And if you get frustrated, right? Or if, and in fact, we've been going at philosophy for thousands of years. So it's really attractive to give up and say, there is no truth. But once again, that's like obviously incorrect. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a tantrum. It's very like adolescent. It's very childish. And adults that live that way, the results of their lives are never positive. So like the whole point of adopting philosophies is it's supposed to make your life better, or like whatever that means to you, right? In whatever sense you're saying it, but you want to get things you want and whatever. The attractive part of nihilism is that you can make peace with like bad decisions you make. For example, we were talking about alcoholism or drug addiction. According to a nihilist, there would be nothing wrong with someone wasting away, spending all their money on heroin,
YOLO.
sleeping on a street corner,
Yeah.
or a street corner. I mean, living in a cardboard box. Who are we to judge, right? And then they die of this addiction. Well, according to a nihilist, so what?
Yeah.
And that's just like the guy on the steps, Diogenes, right? The first cynic. It's like the path to nihilism. He on that painting, he's drunk on the steps. Everyone else is doing something, and he's doing nothing, because there's no point to doing anything, to him, right? Everything is dust in the wind.
I think it's interesting because nihilism can take two paths.
Okay.
Like one can be like I said, YOLO mentality, where you only live once, like it doesn't matter, so might as well do whatever you want, party away,
Ambition.
enjoy your life, yeah. Or you can take the more depressing option.
Depression. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you can fall into really deep depression because of nihilism, because nothing matters, so you shouldn't care,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing to live for. And so I think it's interesting how it takes such like a drastic split,
Yeah, I think the depression side is way more common in people.
Yeah.
And I think it's also like we equate it with cynicism. I think when people they'll tell themselves this story, it's similar to the self-sabotage thing that I've taught you about, where you can convince yourself that if something is hard to do, it's also not worth it, so why try?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, it doesn't actually matter. So whatever your problem is, I don't know, like everyone has these different problems, like having a good relationship or getting in shape or getting the job you want, whatever it is. If you fail at it or you have struggles, right, any sort of difficulty, any sort of setback, well, that thing didn't matter anyway. So a lot of times it's like this medicine that we give ourselves to protect our egos.
Yeah.
So I think, the depressive side is way more common. The ambitious side is kind of what people use to like as pep talks sometimes.
I know.
Like if something bad happens, you're like, well, it didn't matter anyway, so keep your chin up and try again. Which is, I think, closer to the truth. But if you take it wholeheartedly as the truth, then really when you think about it, it's like, well, then why should I try again? Why not just go sleep on that street?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I noticed that because Mr. Cummings makes us watch a lot of pep talks.
Mm.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Steve Jobs. It's all Steve Jobs.
But it was just like a lot of it was you shouldn't it shouldn't matter to you. You shouldn't care. And I was like, it sounds like nihilism. Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So how do you know what to do? Like, and the whole point of philosophy is like, how do I know what to do? The world is very complex. It's very confusing, right? Even things that we take as being simple are actually very complex. And I'll give you a real life example. Where are we eating tonight? And then it's like
It's up to you.
it takes 3 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
What do you want to do?
exactly.
It's like, oh, not that, not that, not that. I don't really care. But then when people suggest not that, so it's like even making very simple decisions on like what should I eat, they can be very complicated, very complex. And so actually like there's a role of philosophy and everything. And like how do you decide what's better or worse? A nihilist would say it doesn't matter what I eat, but I don't like mushrooms in my pizza.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a
Like you'll hear people
Or
say,
pineapple.
"Oh, it doesn't matter what I eat." It's very. You need to have some sort of code, some sort of rule set. You have to structure the world, otherwise you'll be what's the paralysis by analysis? I don't know if there's an actual word for that, but you'll be paralyzed by all of the potential choices, and if all of them are equally meaningless, you can't actually make any decisions.
Yeah.
But obviously, like we do make decisions, so none of us are actually nihilists.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all in school right now, and we're all wearing clothes, and we're all wearing shoes.
Sure.
You
It's
know,
all choices.
but if none of it mattered, you'd be like Diogenes sleeping on the steps.
Yeah.
And actually, they did him a favor in that painting. He's wearing clothes. In real life,
You just gave up.
he would walk around naked. He's like, animals do it, why can't I?
I think
So he was exploring that that realm.
That
Some people are a little odd like that.
But he died with, and he lived with the dogs, like stray dogs. So his statues, a lot of times, it'll be him and a dog together, but in reality, he was living like a dog.
interesting.
He sounds
Sounds
very
exciting.
troubled.
He was looking for truth, and that's the thing is, there people
Don't
have
look
tried
too
it.
hard. Don't care that much.
That's all that mattered to him.
Yeah. If you really want to be a true nihilist, you would just give up and die.
Yeah, why not just die?
Yeah, like, and that's
Exactly.
the depression side, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So
And you'll hear like a lot of times the symptoms of depression are nihilism.
yeah,
You can actually tell that someone is going into the realm of mental illness when they start to speak or believe that nothing matters.
It's crazy seeing that happen.
Yeah.
yeah.
And at this age especially, because your brains are changing so much.
Brains are weird.
And for the next 10 years, you guys are going to see your friends go through a lot of stuff like that.
A lot of my friends already have, and like you can watch it like slowly descend, and it's
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
It's like-
once you learn like what the beginning incidents are,
Mm.
can't,
and you can kind of like recognize the patterns.
there's nothing you can do really.
Mm.
You can kind of just watch it go down, and that's like a different question in there.
Mm.
I had a very angsty weekend anyway, but you can just see things decline, and it's hard to watch. And I feel like it's gonna get worse as we get older.
Well, it gets okay. Well, it either gets worse or it gets better.
There's
Sometimes,
and
that's when
sometimes
it's
it does
better.
both. Like people, before I don't think we were recording yet. You know, like sometimes watching people's lives is like watching a
The
stock.
market, yeah.
Goes up, goes down, goes up, and hopefully it's on an upward trajectory. You know, but yeah, there's setbacks, and then people, they have struggles. Hopefully they overcome some, and then like your problems get worse or harder to deal with. Actually, they don't necessarily get worse. But adult problems, it's funny to like listen to little kids and like what do they think is the biggest problem? You know, like sharing toys.
that's the sad part too.
You know, and then like you have the adult problems of like
Yeah.
taking care of other people. So like things just naturally get harder and harder, but you're like more and more prepared. Hopefully.
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 Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hope.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that followed because I was stuck with my family for like a week over the blizzard, and a lot of them have addictions. So
Mm.
that was a different question that came up. Was because we were all arguing. It was like, should we just not talk to them? Should we just cut them off, or they will die on their own?
Mm.
And that was like the whole family discussion. So it's like, is it better just to leave someone with an addiction? And that's actually 13. So you're right on the money.
So a lot of times, and maybe this will give you some wisdom, or maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of times we treat addiction, and not like we treat like medical profession. I mean, we like view it. We view addiction as being the primary problem, but it never is.
There's
And
under-
here's the
there's
thing.
under-
That comes to, gosh, you guys haven't even had psych classes yet. You'll learn this in your psych class. It's like a very common thing. They put rats in like I don't know. It was a sciencey box or whatever. I don't remember if it was glass or if it was concrete or whatever it
Fancy
was.
box.
And then they had a choice between food and water, right? They would push a button and get food, or they would get cocaine. And the rats were choosing cocaine, right? Coke until they died. And like that's taken as like the gospel on addiction and stuff. It's like cocaine is just better than food and water. But here's the part that a lot of times is left out, and I don't know if it's because people don't know or if it's edited for convenience. But if you put these rats in the wild, right, wherever rats are happy, I don't know what a happy rat is. I don't know if it's in a forest or in someone's basement. But if you put them in an
Someone's
environment
basement.
that like a rat would with like plants and other rats and stuff like that, and then you have the same levers, you have the same buttons. You have Coke, right? And then you have, cocaine. I don't want to get
Not
sued
Coke.
right now.
That was
How
like
dare
when
you-
it first started.
Yeah, how dare you equate our product to? But anyway, cocaine or like food, water, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Rats won't choose the cocaine. They choose food and water
Yeah,
because they're in a
there's
healthy
stuff to-
environment.
Yeah,
They're happy.
stuff to live for.
They don't need the cocaine. And the human beings do the exact same thing. So it's like, what's your environment like? Change your environment, a lot of times the addiction changes. And I kind of wonder sometimes if the aha moment is, let's say you have a toxic relationship, that person leaves, and then like 3 months pass, and then that person wakes up and they're like, I don't feel like I need to use anymore. and they don't necessarily know why. Or maybe they moved, I don't know, from California to, I don't know, South Dakota. Maybe they always were a small town person.
That's a downgrade.
It's a downgrade.
Yeah, but maybe
South
like
Dakota's not
maybe
even the
they're
best
around.
one.
I don't know. I'm just throwing things out. But like
South
somehow
Dakota,
your
not even
environment
West
changes,
Dakota.
and now you're like in a place where you are naturally happy. Like it fits your personality or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't feel like I need to use anymore. So like environmental changes, I've noticed a lot when I move, even like apartment to apartment, my daily routine changes.
Yeah.
I've had apartments where like I kept the bathroom spick and span. I've also had times where I moved and like I just made a mess of everything. I had even like small things like, do I take a bath at night or do I take a shower? Like, and I can't put my finger on like why do these habits change? But a lot of times it's associated with like I moved, and then like all of a sudden a lot of things in my life change, even if I'm in the same town.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you just lived in Grand Forks most of your life?
Yeah, pretty much. I had small stints in like Utah, a couple times because my dad was there.
Classic.
Born in Georgia. My dad also lived in Florida, so I would be there for summers. Yeah, Boston, places like that. I don't know. I would have to look at a map because then I'll be like, oh yeah, I was there for 2 months and I was there for 3 months. I had the 3 months in Canada.
Classic.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, and then you got deported.
I was asked to leave.
You left before the day anyway, so
Yeah,
Ass.
doesn't matter.
yeah,
Irrelevant.
yeah.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was just something on my mind, and I thought it would be a good question because it kind of fit into what we were talking about.
Addiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were talking about it earlier, and it wasn't a book. Well, it kind of was the book, but not really the book, but like kind of was the book.
Mhm.
And that kind of equates to like the watching someone decline.
Yeah, and the book specifically addresses young women and the rise of smartphones, social media, and mental illness. And I don't remember what the number was. Was it a 7 times increase in only
Yeah.
a couple of years? It's like smartphones come out and boom, like a massive amount of mental illness increase.
You can see it.
And boys had a slight uptick, but like young women have like a horrible.
Social media.
It's that comes up later too. Scrolls to the bottom real fast.
Okay.
There's there's these forums that I came across a while ago, but they were very like pro mental illness and pro eating disorders, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Fun rabbit hole.
I know it was a not. I mean, it was just weird looking at because it was like the only way you'd be able to.
Google has they don't have a space right here.
That's weird.
I've never seen Google make a mistake like that.
What?
Is that
They
crazy?
have like 3 billion lines of code,
Yeah.
but not enough for a space.
We should write them an email.
We should write them an email.
I am very disappointed in your workmanship.
We were having a podcast and we were really interrupted by this.
Yeah, I'm a
space.
teacher. I can't look past that. It's unacceptable.
F mine.
So yeah,
Oh yeah,
anorexia and bulimia, I'm guessing,
yeah.
and like encouraging each other.
Yeah. So, and that came up too. Is there is a lot of the problems with like the mental illness that came up with smartphones was because of Photoshop, and you can see it like get worse as things go along because there's a very very unrealistic standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where like even
Can't unsee it.
It's impossible.
can't look away.
Mhm.
So,
It. Shoot, one sec. Brain's empty.
Unrealistic
Oh
standard.
god. Yeah. Where even the people who are like the standard, they.
it's on every single one.
Yeah, it's in their code.
Shoot. Where even the people who are seen like as a standard, like Kim Kardashian, she sued people because they had a unedited swimsuit photo of her. So it's like
Interesting. Okay.
everything. Videos can be edited. Like anything can be edited.
Yeah.
And it will look realistic. And that's what I found on a lot of these forums was people were like putting up like, well, they're better and I should be better. And it's like, that's a very dangerous thing to get into. But I see it a lot. Like kids are getting electronics younger and younger. And these Photoshops and stuff is getting better and better as the years go on. So it's going to be like, I think it's going to be a steady decline of children's mental health for a long time.
Yeah. So do you think this is an area where you need government regulation?
Maybe
Yes.
a little. Yeah, I think there is.
I don't think 6-year-olds should have phones. Smartphones.
Absolutely not.
I knew a 4-year-old who has a phone. What does a 4-year-old do on a
All right,
phone? They can
you
even
guys
open
are
a
14.
password.
So what age would you pick for like, hey, you're developed enough to handle this thing that's gives you access to everything that happens in the world?
Well, I think phones are fine. Personally, I think flip phones would be best for younger, but as
Yeah.
long as you don't have those social medias and stuff that you can access to those negative parts of everything.
Give me a number, Joey.
A number?
Give
Okay,
me a number.
okay, a number for a phone. 11.
Don't.
12.
You're a horrible
12,
parent.
11,
You're horrible.
12,
You're
11,
still.
12.
So you're just like every other
But no
parent.
social media until
You're
like
literally the exact
16.
same as.
Like, I don't think I should have
Well, the
social
thing
media
is
at
like,
my age.
I don't have social media. I didn't get a phone until I started walking home, and I got a flip phone. And my mom,
The flip phone until 11.
side note, my mom got me a $30 Walmart flip phone, and then got mad
Oh,
at
yeah.
me when it broke.
I had a Nikon, so I wasn't going to break.
Yeah, well, I got it, and the screen was already peeling off. Like, she came home with the box, and it was already peeling off. But what I'm saying is, I don't have any social media. And yeah, I still get that content. I don't even expect it. It's literally in everything you look at.
It's too good of a business.
And, yeah, it's too easy to make money off of.
Yep.
And children are very English, fall prey to that very easily. And I think that's why people keep promoting it, and I don't think that's okay. So I think there has to be more regulations around what can be shown to kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it makes sense. But the problem, the devil's always in the details of like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And then
Well, they track enough. They can tell it to 5-year-old
honestly,
to
the real
5-year-old.
the real solution is that parents need to,
Pay attention.
yes, and they need to start parenting again.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of we blame, not only do we blame a lot of these problems on phones and social media, which I absolutely agree is part of the problem. I think a large part of the problem is parents don't want to be parents. And I'm going down as on recording, but I've heard parents admit to, like, if their child is being difficult some way, or they're like tired or whatever,
I'll just give a kid a phone.
the screen is the babysitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you ever like said that, it's kind of like one of these things, like if they admit it about themselves, it's okay to say it, but if you ever like said somebody was doing that, they would get really upset.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay when I say it, but it's not okay when you say
It's
it.
okay when you make fun of my sibling, but
Exactly.
when I make fun of my own sibling, but
Yeah. And so like we all know it's happening.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an option before. Like when you were a parent before, you didn't have the choice to use a screen as a babysitter. You had to
Yeah.
like, I don't know, put Legos in front of a kid, or like
like
or actually, and you had to be watching them all the time too. And kids used to be the entertainment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you would have these chairs and sofas and stuff, and then you would have a rug in the middle, and you'd maybe have a fireplace, and the kids were actually your entertainment. You didn't have TV. This is going way back, but like we've slowly shifted to now, like furniture faces TVs. It doesn't face a fireplace.
Yeah.
Who needs warmth when you can have
Yeah.
a television?
Yeah, exactly. So it's
It's like
until
razzing-
parents are like, my kid's not getting a phone and we do have parents like that, and then the kids, I've noticed my students that have parents that are quote unquote crazy.
Yeah. Not allowed to have phones.
And all my friends have a phone, but my parents are nuts, and I still have a bedtime, and I'm 14 and whatever.
Yeah.
It's
like,
usually the product is usually very successful.
I think it's a type of child neglect, if I'm gonna be honest, because I know a lot of people who just will straight up not care about things. Like, they'll just give their phone, and they'll be like, okay, little Timmy, do that until
Bedtime.
I come back, or
Yeah.
like, do that until, and it's time to go to bed. And I went to a friend's house once, and she had like a 6-year-old sister, right?
Yeah.
Her mom worked, and the sister was at home alone, but her sister was on the iPad all day.
Yeah.
And her mom just gave her that and gave her like 2 snacks and was like, okay, I'll be back.
See, but like you need some sort of social movement, and like you have to convince enough people that it's not acceptable behavior. And like I don't know how you do that. And usually like I'm not an advocate of really anything usually. But that's really what has to happen. Like government won't do it. Like don't you guys even have to say you're a certain age to get these apps?
You can sit,
Like,
most people lie.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So most people lie. So
In
your
most places
government
I'm in.
regulation will do nothing.
I was born in 2000.
And that's the thing is like you actually have to change the hearts of people and the minds of people into like believing and like calling each other out. Like when you see parents that's like a 4-year-old's got an iPad and they're on it for an hour playing whatever, like just messing with it.
I mean, for
Be
Twitch,
like, hey,
you have to
what are
be
you doing?
13.
What are you doing to your kid? You know,
Yeah.
your kid should be like, I don't know,
Playing outside.
building blocks. Yeah,
You
or
should,
Dirt.
should be able to touch grass
they-
before,
yeah.
before
Touch
15.
grass.
yeah,
Eat dirt, you know.
yeah, they should go out
Falling
there and
off
get
bikes,
hurt. Which
yeah.
this kind of goes back to that book too. It's like parents won't let kids play outside.
Yeah,
So,
that was kind of why I.
yeah.
Well, this is all like forum. This is all revolved around forums. Like we've gone
Yeah.
a side tangent that was very much needed.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
And
no.
it's well established that anorexics and bulimics, you can't keep them together
Yeah, they will feed on
to
it.
treat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
They'll convince each other to hold out
even like
and don't give in.
support groups can get dangerous. Like
Yep.
even like monitor support groups can get really dangerous because
Mhm.
they will compete. It's a competition. Anorexia, bulimia, it's about control. And if you can control yourself better than quote unquote control yourself better than someone else, then you're better. And it's like yeah.
You know what's funny is like the Buddhist ascetics, like, well, I don't know how much you guys like
I
Buddha.
know a little bit.
Buddha experimented with a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah.
And like one of those was eating 1 grain of rice for 40 days or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was like that's
Gandhi level.
that's a connection to real.
Gandhi was a terrible person. Continue.
It was real pursuits of truth, right? And like, yeah, total control over your body and over your actions. It's like the ultimate form of discipline, right? And that's not different from, anorexia. And so I think that's interesting.
Yeah. My friend was actually the one who sent me the forums. Because I was in some of those forums. Not the anorexia, bulimia ones, but I came across some other ones. All way, way back when I was like an 8-year-old. Which brings up, it's like the same. Although my parents didn't give me like social media and stuff, I still found it through friends, through school computers, like through other stuff. And it's just weird looking back on because it was like it's almost cult-like
Mm-hmm.
how close-knit these communities become, but just because they're close-knit and like tight, your buddy doesn't mean it's a good thing.
No.
Like it's a very bad thing because it's a self-destructive spiral and you pull everyone else into it with you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is.
You cheer each other on your way down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Antisocial boys do the same thing. If you put antisocial boys together, they get more antisocial.
Oh,
And if you put an antisocial boy into groups of boys that aren't antisocial, the boys that aren't antisocial start becoming antisocial.
I like to think.
So
I'm
there's
not
like,
social,
there's
but-
like contagious behaviors and contagious ways of thinking and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like thought patterns are actually contagious. I guess that's what culture is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people can form their own cultures.
That's kind of like the tribalism that's talked in this book.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
human brain's wired to be in a tribe of some sort and to split into groups. Split people
Yeah.
into groups.
Why do people divide into groups?
Yeah, I like that line. It's like, how did that one go? Did you read the part where it was like, me against my brothers, me and my brothers against my cousins,
Yeah,
me and my
I
brothers
did,
and
yeah.
cousins against the world,
Yeah.
or whatever it said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
That
will
was the
divide
quote.
ourselves into groups until there's literally nothing you can
Yeah.
divide
I think it
anymore.
was Bedouin. Was it Bedouin that said that? It was. Yeah, it's like it's very accurate. Like we all instantly know it. And that's the thing is like nihilists would say, that's not true. But like there's moments of truth is like everyone's like, yep. And it's like it's funny when you finally find something where how people just agree to it, or it like brings a tear to your eye, where you have these moments where it's like, I finally found some truth.
Yeah.
And the nihilist is just drunk on the steps.
Yeah,
Over there.
Yeah.
At least he has ropes.
What do the Bedouins know?
he's chilling.
Just like yelling out the window.
There's Why Does School Suck Out the Soul? That was also a very angsty day. But yeah, I hate school. I'm putting that on record, by the way. Out there now.
I think everyone hates it to a degree.
It's
The thing is like it's proven that it's better than not having school.
the only reason I go is for my friends.
I hate
And also
certain
because my parents
aspects.
make me. But besides that,
I hate algebra. I don't know why. It's just things that I'm not good at. I fear.
I
And
thought
so
you were good at algebra.
I fear math.
I'm leech off your questions and you don't even realize it. And they're usually right.
I had like a 17.25 out of 30 today. Like it was not good.
It's okay, I got a 12. Same
I'll take
test.
it. I'll take
Same
it.
test.
Doesn't matter anyway.
Oh, yeah, it just doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't matter.
Nothing matters.
Nothing
Why do we have to go to
matters.
school?
It's just
Life is
middle
empty.
school. It's just middle school. It's
Life's
just middle
empty.
school.
Yeah, there's some days where I really don't want to go to jazz band either, but
Ooh, that's because jazz band.
There was things about school that, if you guys had more life experience, and this is part of a bigger tangent about kids not working now because they're too good for fast food or they're too good for whatever, and this is like goes all the way up through college. People are taking on the debt, partially because they don't want to work. Not everybody. So people might listen to this and be like, I'm working a job and I'm taking on debt. But there's some people that are taking on debt to avoid working, and sometimes it's not because they need the time; it's because they're saving pride.
welfare dependence. Is that what you're kind of getting?
No.
at? Oh.
No, that's
Uh,
different.
But the life experience creates, like, you guys you've had problems, but you haven't had workplace problems. So what do you need mathematics for? You haven't
Yeah,
built
true.
anything yet. You haven't built
Why do we
anything
need
yet.
geometry?
Yeah, so like when we do these things of like areas, you haven't even bought a rug for your house.
Yeah. So why do we need?
It's like even the most basic math problems, you haven't had to do it yet because people are taking care of you. So it has no meaning to you.
Well, you could also say that I could just Google it. You could be like, I don't need that because I can just look it up.
Hey, Google right now, and people can see the screen, right? Google
Speech.
who taught Socrates. Google that.
Sorry.
Oh, cap lock.
There we go.
So the top answer, Plato.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says. And you guys, if you were students, you would write that down.
Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
But who taught Socrates?
No clue.
Well,
I'd probably Google
I can
it.
tell you who taught Plato.
Socrates.
Yeah, it's this Google specifically is exactly backwards. And then Plato taught Aristotle. And I also know Aristotle, well, no.
Look at that.
One, boom, there you go.
Yeah.
Later taught Aristotle. And then Aristotle, his student was Alexander the Great. Now, here's the thing. If you have no education and you ask Google, you don't know if the answer is correct or not.
Oh yeah, like you're talking how people were writing down Germany on who France declared
Yep,
war
exactly.
in 1798.
Who wrote Germany?
A lot, like half of your
I
classmates.
probably wrote Germany. not
Half
gonna
of your
lie.
classmates said Nazi Germany, and it was 1798, right?
Yeah.
French Revolution.
Yeah.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? There's
Right, and that's
conspiracies.
so then you can say, well, you're a
Conspiracies.
historian, you actually don't know because you weren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, were you there?
And then if you make truth claims, even if I tell you things that I see from my own life, you could doubt them and be like, he could be lying.
Yeah.
So you go down the road of nihilism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nothing is knowable, nothing is true.
Yeah.
Really, it all ties back to nihilism in the end. I think that's
Yeah, you make a choice.
yeah. Like it's nihilism. Although it's such a self-defeating thing, right?
Instantly.
It is always, we always fall back on it. It's
Mhm.
like just it's how our brains are wired, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like all of these stories embodied by like good and evil, right? And yin and yang and stuff like that. It's like we're constantly battling, and like what's the Thanatos, the force of destruction, and then I forget what the opposite was, Eros, force of love,
No clue.
something like that. Anyway, all of these ideas and philosophies and cultures and stuff are like all saying the same thing about human beings, that we're constantly battling between a this and a that, a good and an evil. And then maybe the most appropriate way to say it, and it seems like we're getting down to it, is like you choose between meaning and not meaning. And then not meaning is destruction, death, depression, sadness. It's like all these things
Good times.
result from choosing not meaning.
Yeah.
And all of the positive things in life, choosing from, like, it all comes down to choosing to embrace meaning and then like strive for something and then like choose things that matter. And so for you guys to understand that at 14, it changes your life, because you will watch them, like you said, you've already seen your friends start to go down that path. I don't know, I guess somehow you have to spread this idea of like, you have to choose meaning and you have to believe that things matter, and not everything matters,
Nothing.
but some things do, and you have to that's kind of the fun of life, is embracing responsibility.
Is it more? I think it's more gray than it is. That's my conclusion. And I've lived 14 very long years.
Mhm.
Like, clearly I know everything, but nothing's really completely meaningful. Nothing's really completely meaningless. It's like a spectrum, at least in my opinion. It goes back and forth, and it's like, is this person bad or are they good? It's like, they're both. People are on a spectrum.
But people would have both. So according to what I just said, people are constantly battling both
Yeah,
the
between
forces.
both of them. Yeah.
So yeah, people are always more complex than this or that.
I think you have to let go of the idea of things being one way or another and just accept the fact that sometimes things are just chilling.
Well, some things are more important than other things.
Yeah, well, some things, yeah. Do I eat cereal this
So-
morning isn't as important as, like, deciding the fate of another person, but...
Right. Exactly. So like, yeah, I guess maybe you're saying shades of gray, which to me it always sounds like the path to nihilism. But like, maybe it's more appropriate to say
On the
like
wrong
not
path.
everything that's meaningful. Not everything that's meaningful is equally meaningful to each other.
Yeah. Things...
So like you can rank order, yeah, exactly. Like a bowl of cereal is not more important than someone else's life. So if you had a chance to save someone's life or eat your breakfast,
I think some people...
both are meaningful, but one
Both
is
are
obviously
meaningful,
more. Yeah.
It really depends on your values, too. 'Cause some people really might just prefer their cereal over a human life. Like, it just
Yeah.
depends on the person, I guess.
And actually so this gets to a good point because you asked about nihilism, and you also, I believe one of your questions is about different philosophies.
Yeah.
So let's do the classic dilemma. You have a train, right? And on one side of the tracks, yeah, this is really important because I'm going to give you guys a take that you probably never heard before. On one side, you have like one person, right? And on the other side, I don't know, how many people is it?
5.
Yeah, and then you're walking by, and then the dilemma is, do you pull the lever? Joey,
Yes.
the train is speeding towards 5 people. Do you pull the lever and kill the one?
I mean, yeah.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
And then Ada,
Yeah, I would.
you kill the one.
Yeah, I
Now
could.
here's, and this is very important. It's very important.
Okay.
We make that decision every single day. Well, actually, you guys don't. You're kids. But I have more money
man-children.
than I need right now. I have savings, right? Do I send that money, all of it, to the starving children in Africa or India or pick a country, whatever is in vogue right now?
It's very cynical.
So they're dying, right?
Yes.
Am I pulling the lever? Did I put the train... Exactly. So did I put the train on the tracks? Did I put the people on the tracks?
No.
Am I involved in any way?
No.
When I pull the lever, and here's Mr. Roughhead's take, and hopefully some philosophy professor can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Once I pull that lever,
You're part
I've
of it.
murdered the one person. If I don't pull the lever and those 5 people die, I don't think I murdered them. People are dying in Ukraine right now. I haven't gone on, I'm a young enough man. I haven't grabbed a gun, hopped on a plane, and flown to Ukraine and helped save their lives. I didn't pull the lever. In that case, pulling the lever would be getting on a plane and defending innocent people in Ukraine. So there's situations that you're not a part of, right? And you're not guilty, for example, for the people that Vladimir Putin is killing in Ukraine. You guys aren't guilty for the Uyghur Muslims being killed in China. As soon as you get involved, you start to become guilty of different things.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Once you pull it, you're part of it now. Like, you're actively involved in like what's happening. But if you don't do anything, then it's really not your problem. And that seems very bad to say, but
But has anyone
Summing
like
up
ever given you
what
that
you said,
legitimate answer?
no one does, because they want to seem good.
Right. So people will
Everyone's
only give you
so-
the edgy answer. They'll say, "I let the people die," but they're not like grasping the point of like agency.
And it changes too, because it's like the second level of the question is like, what if the one person is someone like you really care about? You have to make that decision. But would you really just sit and like let someone you love die, or would you murder 5 people? Like, you have to make decisions, and a lot of decisions just can't be.
Yep.
Don't have like a straight answer.
The philosophy behind that dilemma is called utilitarianism.
Yeah.
It advocates for the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people.
Yeah.
Which
It's
sounds really good on its surface, but it's actually a pathway to destruction.
Very bad, very bad. It can
Yeah.
quickly turn bad.
So the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people leads you to things, like if you take it to its conclusion, right, unhindered or unabated. And this is where people are like, I'm a utilitarianist and I don't believe this. I think there should be certain safeguards and whatever. But the point of like, if you take just the basic premise of that philosophy, you have things like eugenics.
Yeah.
So anyone, like any baby that's born with a defect, they should be, killed, or any baby with special needs, or any person that's an adult that becomes disabled, injured, whatever, they should go because they're somehow a drag on society, right? So
Joe,
the greatest,
you keep making me yawn.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
the greatest number for the greatest number of people leads you to do some like dark things.
I can quickly turn dark.
But you guys will hear this expressed, especially in college. People will just simply say, no, I believe that we should do the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people.
But
But
How do
without
you-
understanding what they're actually asking for.
Mhm.
all right, we have
So no, I let those people die.
you just.
So that other person on the track is like the luckiest day because I'm not pulling that lever. I'm
Yeah,
just
you
gonna
don't
keep
wanna be
walking.
involved.
I'm just gonna keep walking. I don't want to see what happens.
Just pretend you didn't see anything.
I don't know how they
Nothing
got.
happened.
You know what? They did
They
something
got
wrong.
them
To
their
get,
own-
yeah. Why are
could've
they on
saved
those
themselves,
tracks?
Yeah.
That's your fault.
Why are they all tied up on the tracks? They made someone mad.
Yeah, it's their
You
fault.
made some.
Yeah, obviously
Whatever they
they're
did.
involved with a mafia, cartel, and
hitman.
whatever. Maybe how do I know that the people on the tracks are good or bad?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or that one person could be the next Adolf.
I'm glad this is recorded because someday this will actually be really relevant to you guys. You'll have a college class or a
I hope
high
I
school
remember.
class, and these arguments will come up. And I don't think anyone will say what I just said.
Well, we will.
Bet.
We will. We will.
I'm gonna hold on to this.
Well, they'll say I'll let the train hit the people because I'm edgy, dark, and a nihilist, or I love death.
True.
I love death and destruction.
Yeah.
But they won't actually give the reasoning that I gave. So sometimes you can have different philosophies that lead to the same conclusion, just like when we were talking about anarchists being lefty anarchists and righty anarchists.
Mm-hmm.
So the result is the same, but for different reasons.
Yeah. Eventually, you just meet. You can't. You go in like a circle.
Yeah.
Okay. How sensitive is too sensitive? Because like in the book they said certain levels of sensitivity, right, are fine, but people took it way too far, and this happened after all of like the trashing the bathroom thing
Mm.
and all of that.
Or like how kind is too kind.
Yeah.
So,
How many chances should people be given? And that's another.
oh my goodness.
That's another one. That's
How many
another.
chances should people be given?
I give people 2 chances every time.
I have
First chance?
I struggle with it, but I'll try and give people 2 chances. But a lot of times I hold grudges. So.
I do. I hold really bad grudges. I always have. My gym teacher yelled at me for something I didn't do, and I wouldn't speak to him for 3 weeks until finally he broke down.
Mm.
I made a grown man cry because of a grudge. But now I'm
Getting
older.
flashbacks, Raphael?
No, actually I'm
That ever
not.
happened to you?
I was like, imagine.
Imagine.
He was like, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. And I was like,
That's where I get all dark. Imagine having feelings.
Yeah. Cold inside.
Yeah.
Imagine being weak.
imagine crying.
Imagine showing weakness to children.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Whoever this gym teacher is was a nice person.
Oh, he was great. He was one of my favorite
Better
teachers.
teacher than I am.
I gave him little gummy bears every year on his birthday.
Is that like Mr. Schreier or whatever? his name
Straight,
is?
yeah.
So
he was
are you
great.
listing one for us to juggle right now, or what do we? So you had how nice is too nice. I have a very simple answer to that. When your niceness isn't actually
Nice anymore.
is destructive.
Yeah, like when it's not helping
Also-
anybody.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
If you're causing actual destruction in someone's life.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like like enabling.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've ever heard that
Yeah.
term
Yeah.
or whatever, but
Yeah.
there's people allowing people to become dependent, so dependent that they're actually somehow crippled or
Yeah.
you enjoy their dependence on you,
Mhm.
and when really you should be helping them become strong and independent, autonomous,
Mhm.
self-sufficient, whatever you want to say, because that's what true freedom is. You want people to be free to be themselves. Sometimes to be kind, like being kind, can also be dishonest. So I'm the type of person. I lived many years thinking that I knew what virtues were. Do you guys remember I taught you about virtues?
Virtues
Yeah.
and vices.
Yeah, I actually just forgot to write one down, and it made me make a lot of mistakes. I didn't realize that kindness was a virtue. I thought people just said stuff like that, but like I read the lists a long time ago. I was in my 20s. I'm like, whoa, kindness isn't on there, but honesty is, and honesty is like my most important thing. So it actually made me like, okay, I'm gonna be all these virtues, but kindness wasn't on my list, and I didn't purposefully omit it. I somehow missed it. So for about 10 years there, I was thinking that like, you know, I don't know what the other ones are, but being patient, you know, is
Yeah.
important. Being honest is important.
I used your trick where you're like,
Temperance and
when you're like, okay, this person like has good virtues or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it is, but like I remember kind of the idea of it.
when you don't like somebody,
Yeah, you gotta like.
you remember the virtue that they do have.
Yeah.
Which is there's always something.
There's sometimes it's hard to find, but I did find a few, and it was very useful in
Mm-hmm.
surviving a weekend with the relatives.
Yep. It's how I survive with 100 kids that are very different from me.
We're different.
Very much
So like I'll have kids that like, you know, they pester me with questions about what are we doing next week? What are we doing? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that kid is like thoughtful, thinking about the future, probably organized, probably has some discipline in their life where they're actually planning ahead, right?
Yeah.
And so like the thing that is annoying me is actually an expression of what can be good traits.
Yeah.
Now if they're anxious about it, then that would be destructive to them, right? But that's usually not the case. It's usually just me being like, I don't know, kid. Why are you asking
Figure it
me?
out yourself.
Why are you asking me about, you know,
Yeah.
whatever? So
How many? Oh yeah. Do we get to the how many chances? I went on a
how many chances?
tangent about how I hurt my gym teacher's feelings deeply, but
Yeah. So how many chances do people get? This is, I don't want to call it a shades of gray question because it's not. But you have to know what's going on inside of the person.
yeah.
So are they actually remorseful? It's kind of like in that second step lesson, we had the difference between saying you're sorry and making amends.
Yeah, there's.
One of them's a lot harder than the other one.
Yeah.
So are they saying sorry, or are they actually making amends? Like human beings, we screw up a lot, especially like you've probably heard it 1,000 times about marriages and how hard they are and how much work they are. It's because you're making amends for all the screw ups you do.
Yeah, because you
You're
love the
constantly
person.
making amends, and making amends is very difficult. But if you don't do it, the marriage is destroyed. So are you saying sorry, or are you making amends? And people will screw up. It's actually not the amount of times that they screw up. It's whether or not they have a habit of making amends or saying that they're sorry.
Depends on the screw up too. Like if it's a really, really big life destroying screw up, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna take you back. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So eventually there are things that you can't make amends for. But that's more rare than sometimes we end relationships over things that are repairable, can be made amends. If the other person's not willing to do that, then yeah, you can do it on the first go. So it could be how many chances do they get? 1, or it could be 100. It depends on what's going on inside the heart of the other person.
Yeah.
I'm a very cynical person, so generally I assume they're not gonna really make amends. So I'd rather just cut it off early than deal with it anymore. But maybe that's a bad mentality, and it's what I'm trying to fix.
Well, you are going to be going to school with these same people for the next 4 years. And it's not as many people as it seems.
Oh,
So
yeah.
something that I enjoy watching is how you guys have your disagreements and struggles and whatever, and watching them come and go, watching the ones that stay and fester, and watching the ones that you guys are able to heal and work through, because you have to.
For example,
It's like a massive family.
I hated Joey.
Yeah. We hated each other.
We hated
in
each other. It was
third-
third grade, second grade. Was it second grade?
second and third.
Second and third grade.
Kinda
We
stuff.
hated each other.
Yeah,
Like
that
I
was rough.
genuinely
Yeah, that was a lot.
disliked him. I disliked him deeply.
Yeah.
But now, I don't know. We're not friends, but we're chill.
Neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't really matter because it was dumb and it was like
Yeah.
super long ago.
We were what, 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
I was very into politics back then.
Yeah, I
very,
guess-
very,
I guess we
very.
have- I guess we have a grudges.
Yeah, why not? So, yeah, I mean, how many chances? You start to evaluate, and, like, it gets easier as an adult. There's a lot of people that I would never hang out with, and I wouldn't say that they're friends, but I enjoy having them as coworkers. We hang
That's a
out.
joke, yeah.
Marshall's a friend.
I know.
But, yeah, there's, like, people that I enjoy them as coworkers because they have traits that I don't have. They're more organized than me, or they're hardworking, or they're disciplined. but we don't hang out or whatever.
Yeah.
Do people usually have a lot of work friends, or is that pretty rare?
I think it's pretty common.
No, I mean,
But I
just
think
for
it's
anyone.
always like there's, especially when you're in lower level jobs, like when you guys start working restaurants and working whatever, like you
You
have to
come and
remember your
go.
coworkers are not your friends.
Yeah.
Well, what do
It's the
you
same
define
thing
as
with
a
it's the
friend?
same thing with teachers, huh?
What do you define as a friend? I mean, I talk to people. I talk to a lot of people. Every
Like
day at
how you
school,
speak,
but-
like the code switching,
Yeah.
you know, swearing and like
Yeah.
showing the crudest form of yourself, like
Yeah.
the most
Crudeness, yeah.
like having the most fun.
Yeah.
Like like when you switch to that mode of like all I care about right now is having fun,
Yeah.
as opposed to like I'm
YOLO.
gonna be virtuous and respectful and whatever.
Yeah.
And like ideally that's the same person, but we know human beings are more complicated than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you get on your Xbox Live and you start talking about people's mothers, you don't want to do that at work.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I've
good
been on
advice.
Xbox Live. I was there when it started.
I have heard
But
some
that's
pretty
at the
nasty
beginning, huh?
things.
It's a contest in creativity.
Yeah.
It's very creative.
That's actually like a lot of people don't understand what's going on, and it's like people are just trying to be creative in the most crude way, and
Yeah.
so like it's actually laughable. Like usually when people take offense to the things said on the internet, it's like
Don't.
you're actually missing what's going on. It is all a contest in creativity,
It's
and
just
if you
saying
forget that, you're going to be really upset.
It's just saying the dumbest stuff you can
Yeah.
come up with.
Look up the Zaporizhia Cossacks.
Do you want to spell that one?
No, just look up Cossacks and then start the next word with a Z, and Google will do the work for you. Oh, with a K. There you go.
Yeah,
And then
no.
Zap. There you go. Okay, it's a painting. It's on the right with
This one?
the Wikipedia side of
Oh.
it. It's these guys. They're sitting around laughing. And it's really famous right now. It's always been famous, but right now it's in the popular sphere because of the Ukraine thing.
Yeah.
But this is a bunch of men sitting around writing the crudest insults that they can. I don't remember if it was to the
Live.
Polish or if it was to the Russians, but they were refusing to surrender. And the whole point of the painting is like they're like write this, and they're coming up with more and more disgusting things to say, and that's really what we all do on the internet every single day.
This is true.
This is the internet right here.
This is
This is
prime
the internet.
bonding.
Yeah, so it's
We
a funny
use-
painting when you know it's kind of like the Greek one. When you actually know what's going on, it's like it's another moment of like, yeah, that's true. That's who humans are.
Yeah.
Are you an art history nerd?
No, I wasn't until I took one art history class. It was actually probably the second hardest class I took. Actually, no, it was probably number 3. But it was actually all of my hardest classes were the ones that made the biggest impact on me.
I guess
Which
that's
ones
kinda how
were
it
they?
goes.
The hardest class I had was it was a Western Civ 2 class taught by Professor Eisminger. He taught for like 60 years or something like that. He's the longest tenured UND professor. And he was a French Revolution expert. And he was demanding. And then, but he was like, he's also one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever seen too. And then him and I butted heads. We had some arguments. I went to his office. We had multiple arguments, but it ended up being like a great thing for me. And then my second hardest class was Money and Banking, taught by Daniel Owens. He still works there. And that had math in it,
Oh, no thanks.
and it was economics. So I struggled.
Ugh.
And then the third one was the art history class. She'd show like 60 slides in a night. And this was one of those once a week classes, I think, for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then we had to memorize like who did it, what was the medium, what's the
Sorry.
style, what year. There's all these
Oh.
things to know about paintings. And like if you had only a couple, it'd be fine. But when you have so
60.
many and they all start to kind of seem the same because they're from the same era or they're
Yeah.
the same style, and then they're people you've never heard about, it was very difficult.
There's
I mean-
some good art.
And then the tests actually were really difficult because you had to do critical thinking. She would show paintings we never saw in class.
Oh,
And
you
then-
had to,
YOLO.
like, you had to estimate what.
Yes, you had to
Yeah.
make your best guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Did
like,
you
where
use
would this
the
probably...
references?
So you had to know the themes and patterns. It's like, how dark is it? How light is it? Is it oil? What's the subject about? And like, yeah, you were literally just guessing.
Yeah.
Educated, estimating, or whatever.
That sounds like fun though. Being able to know.
It would be
that.
fun if it wasn't graded.
Sure.
If part of my life didn't depend on it.
Yeah. I'm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I see.
You know, my
I thought you
future
meant, like, they're
career.
gonna kill you.
No, that'd be catastrophizing. But yeah, I needed to get a certain GPA to be in the education program, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like, yeah, the grades mattered to me
Mhm.
because I had something I wanted.
Yeah, sorry, my mom is texting me. Anyway.
Tell her you're absorbing wisdom right now,
Yeah.
or hearing the ravings of a crazed lunatic.
That's what I told my dad.
Both
I'm like,
way.
I'm hearing wisdom right now.
I'm missing the beard right now.
Oh, the beard. It was so great.
We should be
Yeah.
at the top of a mountain too.
It caught me very off guard when it
You
was
should
gone.
tell the
Very
people
off
being
guard. I
gotta
the
salt it,
story.
I
Tell
guess.
the story.
About the beard.
Yeah.
I don't want to badmouth any barbers, but basically, I paid $40 for the privilege of being.
5 years
I asked
younger?
for a trim and I got a shave. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know what to say. To me, they're not the same.
Clearly, they
I don't
thought
remember
it
the
was.
barbershop either, but
Yeah,
yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
yeah. So the trim went down from like 4-inch beard to like a quarter of an inch or something like that. Or actually,
You didn't
less.
have much left.
That
Yeah.
went fast.
I didn't recognize you at
It was
first.
like
I
God.
didn't think
I
it was
know.
you.
I've never seen your whole face. I was like,
Mhm. I know,
something's missing.
terrifying.
It was horrible.
It was kind of terrifying.
It was, I'm
I
not
was.
gonna lie.
I was confused for like RT, and then I got used to it. But at first, I was like, "Who is it?"
Yeah, I feel because it's one of those things like
You
my
look
outside
young.
doesn't match the inside anymore.
You look very, very, very.
You
You're
look
very
like you
young.
did when you were in your MMA times.
I know.
That was 2013.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
The only fight.
Why'd you get into MMA?
Uh,
And like, I know you do other
that's
martial arts and
that's
stuff.
something I felt like I needed to do.
You got that
That's all I really
adrenaline
want to say
rush.
about that.
Right.
That one might be a not recording.
Why do you play so much League of Legends?
That was a personal challenge. So when I started the game, I'm very like, I keep grudges just like you
Yeah.
do, Ada. I don't know, Joey, if you do that, but I also like
Yeah.
set goals that are kind of just as arbitrary. So like I have the negative thing, which is grudges, and then I have like positive things, which I guess is goal setting, but they're not necessarily that important.
Mm-hmm.
And something that's important to me is when I play games, I need to be in the top 10%.
Yeah.
And the thing
Yeah,
is
I can see that.
usually I can pretty quickly, I would say easily, but it happens.
Yeah.
League, it just happened, and the game came out 13 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
like been this like
Bite.
splinter in my finger, you know.
Well, you didn't.
And like I always knew, like all these other games, I could kind of conquer it somehow,
Mhm.
and that game I couldn't until
Until now.
It's your current
Yeah.
obsession.
2 days ago. Well, now it's over,
Yeah.
and now I'm kind of like that six-fingered man in the Princess Bride.
There's nothing to live for
Yeah, what do
anymore.
I do now? I'm actually kind of in an interesting
There.
spot in my life where, yeah, I kind of want to make my own game, learn coding or
Yeah.
do something. You know, I learned Swedish
Mhm.
well enough. I finished that Duolingo course,
Mhm.
and it's like people they keep saying why.
Why not?
Yeah, it's like it's something that maybe someday it'll be useful,
Mhm.
and sometimes I just improve for improvement's sake.
Yeah.
So why not?
Like,
Why
yeah,
Swedish?
not?
Why not?
Swedish death metal. Favorite subject of music.
Yeah, it was
Genre.
just like it just kind of kept popping up. Oh, actually, I do know like kind of what really set me off. Heroes of the Storm was another video game, and it had a huge European population, specifically Germans and Swedes.
Classics.
And so they were typing to each other, and they were like there was like a lot of them. Like League of Legends, for example, is famous for having a lot of Brazilian players. Like
That was
each game,
Korean.
huh?
That was Korean.
Yeah, but
Korean, there's
they
a lot
don't
of
play on
Korean
the North
players.
American server.
No,
So
they're
our
not
time
really.
zone is actually the same as Brazil.
Yeah.
Or similar enough. And so, but
Is it-
anyway, Heroes of the Storm,
Difference.
a lot of Europeans and specifically Germans and Swedish. So I got on Duolingo. I actually did very well on German. I got very far. But I finished Swedish because I just enjoyed it more.
Why didn't you finish German?
I kind of like, I was doing both, and then it kind of became clear to me that I needed to focus on one.
Mm-hmm.
German's not as fun, I think.
I had to take
I
it
know
in
a
high
little
school.
bit of German because
Yeah.
I have German family that they all speak German. So
That's the thing about
Forcibly
my family.
picked
They
it
don't
up.
speak their languages. Like I have huge Czech in my family, but none of them. Well, my great grandpa speaks Czech. That's kind of why I want to do it because he's getting older. But if I could like walk into his house one day and be like, say like everything that I want to say in Czech, but
Yeah, like when people aren't speaking their native language, you never actually have a real conversation with them.
yeah, exactly.
So someday I would like to have a conversation, for example, with my mother in Farsi, so I know who she actually is. because on some level I have never actually known.
Mhm.
It's kind of deep, but like
Yeah.
if I spoke a second language, you would not be getting the Mr. Roughhead that you guys are getting on the podcast, for example. I just don't have the vocab.
People
Yeah.
are a lot smarter in their native language than they
Yeah,
are in
exactly.
different languages.
Yeah.
There's like certain words too that cannot be translated.
Mhm.
Like for example, in Korean, there's like certain words. There's like a word for familial love, and there's like hun, which is, God. Here we go. Here's what the untranslatable part.
I love languages. So let's dig in.
It's basically like you. It's okay. So, quick history lesson.
Okay,
Korea has
cool.
been occupied a lot, right? So yeah, that was
China.
Russia for a little
while.
bit. Yeah, just lots of different things, but the word is basically, even America was occupied by the U.S. Kind of,
Well,
kind of.
The UN.
Yeah.
A bunch of different countries.
It's the word for being occupied. It's the word for like having your stuff taken. It's the word for being oppressed. It's being seen as a second citizen for stuff you can't control. It's like the word for losing your culture. It's like it's hard to explain. If you are if you're a minority, like you kind of get it, you know? Like you understand at a certain level. But it's basically the anger behind it. It's the hurt and it's the sadness. It's the loathing. It's the hopelessness. Like it's all of that in like a word.
So it's the opposite of like, have you ever seen athletes when they win something and they raise both their hands?
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, basically.
The only thing I know about Czech that's even remotely close to that is that they have a lot of words that have like 3 words in English. Or, I mean, like, girl can translate to 3 different words depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it's hard for me to learn because I'm like, well, doesn't that mean something else? But no, it means this that also has 3 different meanings. Learning a language isn't easy, but it's definitely not as hard as I thought it would be.
English is one of the hardest languages to learn.
I think it's 3rd behind traditional Chinese and Chinese Mandarin.
Oof. Yeah, Mandarin is hard.
Yeah, Mandarin's the hardest.
Hard.
I think on average it takes most hours.
I don't think English is that hard.
It can be if you don't.
When you get into the specifics of it, it definitely does. Like, I can't even speak perfect English.
There's other like there's a lot of untranslatable words. Certain words refer to certain things, others just don't. There's a word for people who are coy and like slick and you can't trust them, but it's not the English version of that. It's a different version of that, you know.
I love stuff like that. Like I was asking people the difference between a ghost and a spirit.
That's fun.
Is no difference.
I think there is.
So, okay, hold on. Do you believe in ghosts?
No, but I believe in spirits.
I can agree.
Interesting.
Yeah, people coming back from the dead, like in a gas.
No, like yeah, like what would you like if you had a foreigner and they're like, oh, I was reading this book and like, what's the difference between a ghost and a spirit?
You can't
What would you
explain it.
What would you tell that person?
Ghosts are angry.
Okay, yeah, ghosts. Exactly. There's a negative connotation with ghosts.
They're
What
dead
else?
people. Ghosts are dead people's spirits. Sometimes aren't.
It's always a human being's
Yeah.
like form.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
a
I
human.
think you guys are like getting it naturally.
Yeah.
And then like so
Ghosts are
spirits can like look like a cloud or like
It can
an
be just
animal
a form of mist.
My-
or a
something like that.
feeling.
Yeah.
My friend
But
is
ghost is like a person walking through a hallway, and you're like, "Whoa, what was that?" It was a ghost
It's a
of,
person.
Yeah.
of you know
Humanoid.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
Jimmy the farmer. Was
Baby Jimmy.
Yeah. So I think spirits and ghosts are actually distinctively different,
Mhm.
even though sometimes we act like they're the same.
Yeah. My friend Ellie is super into like witchcraft and stuff. You know Ellie. Ellie Walsh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, classic. We got coffee. It was very nice to catch up. But basically, they're very into like that sort of stuff, and they explained to me, and I was like, I don't understand, but I'll listen to you because you're passionate about it. But I don't understand. You'll have to repeat that for me. But yeah, it's some people are very, very, very into it, and some people aren't. I'm kind of like I have paranoia about like there's like certain stories I was told when I was little that are like ghosts and spirits and stuff that I don't believe in, but I always kind of like think about constantly, you know.
Should look up ghost and spirit. Let's see what the let's see if we know our own language without knowing it.
Should I look up definition?
Yeah.
Apparition of a dead person, which is believed to appear, become manifest to the living, typically as a.
See, it says nebulous, but I think
It's.
it's kind of what we mean. All right, now spirit.
There's this ghost that like doesn't have a face, and my mom would
The
tell me about that.
non-physical part of a person,
Yeah, it's
which
like,
is emotions. We nailed it.
Yeah, the soul.
like the Disney movie, except not really, kinda. Well, I guess we use that because it's like that person is spirit, and we're talking about their like their personality, their drive. Yeah. All right. Let's see.
So we know English.
Yeah.
And we know English.
We know our language.
We know English. We already kind of covered those.
What does Google say to your air
Shoot.
means?
No, it doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. Fat phobia and pretty privilege. That is something I came across like
Oh wow.
3 days ago, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" Pretty privilege is like when people have advantages because they're conventionally attractive. Psyche. Spelling always screws me up.
So like, what's the point?
Yeah. Is it? I feel like it's a hard thing to explain, but
Are you asking if it
it
exists?
does. I don't know. I don't even know what it like. I know what it is, and I understand the basics and concepts and all that stuff. Like, does it exist? Does it not exist? How much does it exist?
Definitely
what can we do about it?
exists.
Yeah, like people
Like,
prefer pretty people.
it obviously exists because if you ever said someone, would you rather be good looking or ugly? I think most people that are stable would choose good looking. It's like saying,
Stable.
well, some
I mean,
people,
you're not
they always
wrong.
get edgy. You always get,
ugly.
yeah,
I want to be ugly.
yeah.
Society.
I don't want anyone to talk to me. You know, I
This
just want to paint.
You have
Say
to,
it like
you
that.
have to get
Yeah.
that like 100 times a year in the school year.
Well, it's middle school. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying
You should have
like,
got me in
Nobody's
6th grade.
stable.
but you would know that like people would choose one or the other. It's kind of like the old, I think it was George Carlin. It's like I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is better.
Yeah.
You know, it's like very simple.
Yeah, obviously.
It's like you can do everything that poor people can do if you're rich,
Yeah.
Just
pretty much.
yeah.
If you really wanted to, you just wouldn't choose what they do.
That kind of ties into like there are some things that are like glamorous when you're rich and trashy when you're not.
Yeah.
Caviar. Nasty. Why would you ever want that? On
Kinda.
anything?
I was thinking more of like there are certain things like bro I don't like caviar either. I've never had it. But
I don't.
It looks
I've
pretty
had things.
salt.
I've had things labeled caviar, but I guess I never know if it's real or not.
oh, it's
But
probably
it
not
always
real.
tasted good. I thought.
No.
But I don't think it's
Tastes
usually
like
real.
salt.
Isn't it usually too expensive? Like I probably haven't actually had it.
Yeah.
Like
It's,
I probably had
truffle.
things that were like fake.
authentic caviar is really expensive.
Yeah, I probably have had imitations of some kind.
Quickly looks it up.
Casa caviar or something.
Yeah, but it's like things like dressing lazily.
So addressing quote unquote fat phobia,
Yes.
it's like not something that usually applies to middle-aged men. Because like the dad bod is like a specific, like when I say that, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's like this is literally a one-sided thing, and then for me to comment on it, it's like that's loaded by itself. But I would say like, kind of like when we were talking about the how nice is too nice stuff. Okay, is somebody actually being harmed? Is someone's health in danger?
Sometimes
Like, you know, like that's not fat phobia if someone is like, you know, I don't know, 5 feet tall and 600 pounds, and then like you work from there. But I've seen like, hey, look up Roy Nelson MMA.
Roy Nelson.
Yeah, this man was lambasted by his boss for not having the quote unquote look of a fighter, being lazy. And actually, that's him after he's lost weight on the left. But you'll notice he has a belly. And then, like, typical fighters are supposed to have six packs and be shredded and whatever. This man was a champion, right? And this was actually, like, as far as I understand, like, the traditional Roman gladiator look. But
that comes
he
with his
doesn't look like a
muscle
pro
and stuff.
athlete, does he?
Yeah.
But he was very good. Now he's 45, but
Back in the
if
day.
you look, if you look at his pedigree, it's like obvious that this guy was not being held back. In fact, I think when he lost weight, I'm pretty sure he wasn't as good. So
Don't you have to eat a lot?
sometimes we make judgments, right? And I think the underlying question is, is this person being harmed? Because, like, I don't know, people just look different. But, I mean, this guy, I think most people would label him as overweight, but he was literally a pro athlete.
Sheesh.
See, and that's,
Worse
He's-
win percentage than you.
he's 45. So, like, if you look at his record over time, I think there's a steep drop off. But like when he was good, he was good, and he didn't look like he should be good. So it's usually it's reverse chronology.
There's some
So 2007. But this is once he goes into the UFC. He was a champion before he went into the UFC. So anyway,
there's a higher pressure for different people, I think, too. Like females are generally expected to hold to
exactly.
like a different standard.
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But so the question is, are they
Paint on my
healthy
shirt. Yeah.
or are they unhealthy? So underweight and overweight, you treat anorexia and you treat bulimia.
But you don't treat.
So I don't think it's fat phobia if somebody is somehow unhealthy on the other end. Now, what's that line? Well, it's different for everyone.
Well, because overeating is its own disorder.
Yep.
It's binge eating disorder. So really just chills, I guess.
But yeah, if you're looking for some sort of rule of thumb, like the BMI, have you ever heard of BMI, body mass index?
Yeah.
It's like
not
horribly flawed.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
not based on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when I was, and you guys can see me now or whatever. People, if they're a stranger listening to this, they won't know. But I was, when I was in high school, I was my same height, but I was like 135 pounds
You're a
or
wrestler.
142. Yeah, but the BMI thing said I was like overweight.
Yeah, technically I'm overweight.
But I was weightlifting 3 times a day and running and doing all this, and like that's a typical thing for athletes. So like, anytime you try to measure people's health based off of just standardized charts and numbers, it's not going to work. So
Interesting.
I loved Roy Nelson. That's all I'll say about that.
Favorite MMA fighter?
No, he wasn't my favorite.
Who's your favorite?
Probably Matt Brown. He was a recovered drug addict. I'm sure he probably wouldn't like to be labeled that way, or maybe he would. He kind of made a big deal out of it, but he went through some stuff, and then came out of that stuff, and he wasn't that talented. He's kind of a Rocky type character. There was another dude. I'm actually forgetting his name, but he had died once, and I loved that story.
Just dying, come back.
Yeah, I've been hitting the head too many times because these are like guys that I liked, but yeah, the guy died. I think it was an overdose, came back and became an MMA fighter. And I just always thought it was funny. It's like, how do you intimidate someone that's literally died before?
Yeah, that's true.
You know how they do the face-off and they trash talk each other? It's like, how do you affect this dude? He's been dead before. What are you going to do? Tell him you're going to kill him?
Yeah. Oh, just
You
come
tried
back again.
once.
Yeah. How do
Try me.
you, how do
And
you
then come
possibly-
back.
Yeah, he's like, it wasn't that bad. In fact, it was kind of peaceful or something. Like, how do you... Was it Matt Brown? His nickname's the Immortal. Maybe it's Matt Brown that died and
Okay.
see, I should know. I just told you he's my favorite, but I'm like, I kind of disconnected myself from the MMA thing when I was done with it. Kind of like the League of Legends thing when I got what I thought I needed out of it.
Alaskan bush people.
It kind of became. It didn't become. It had no place in my life.
It looks like his father died, but it doesn't look like he died.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it might have been. Might have been someone else. Well, why was his nickname the Immortal then?
He's a drug and alcohol addict.
How about Matt Brown MMA?
You just look that up.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was the Immortal.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah,
Survived a heroin overdose.
Yeah.
So he was on.
Why
I
are,
think so.
why are the best coping mechanisms unhealthy? Like, think about it. Opioids are the best way to treat pain, right? But, like, they're horrible for people. So, like,
Yeah, your
why...
liver does.
The best coping mechanisms
Yeah. Or generally the ones
in the short
people
term.
see their best. That's the thing.
Morphine.
The short term or long term. Morphine. People get addicted on that too.
Yeah,
My
morphine
favorite
super.
coping mechanism is music. So I think I'm in the clear.
Glacier has chewed me out of my music taste a lot.
Oh yeah, my music taste isn't good. I just
Why are the best coping? What was it? What did you say?
Why are the best coping mechanisms unhealthy? I got in trouble for that one actually.
Okay, well then they're not the best. So they'd be the most tempting.
Yeah, the most like
the most common.
yeah, because people like I said, opioids are like.
So you're
the
really
best way to
asking
gain.
why is doing the right thing so hard?
Yeah. Why is it difficult to do things you know are right, but they feel wrong?
Yeah, so the definition of coping is like avoidance. Of
Yeah,
like,
it's a classic.
I can take an easy path, or I can take the hard path, which is like having a difficult conversation with somebody, or changing my own habits, or whatever. Or I
Thought
can
patterns.
cope. Or I can cope. I can eat or drink or smoke or play video games. The most common one
Take a
for
nap.
teen boys is they think playing video games. Yeah, they think playing video games is a healthy thing. But
I
it's
know
To a
Rocket
point.
League isn't healthy. It's
To a
it's become an addiction.
I know some people who are like addicted to video games.
Oh, I am.
People who like
Absolutely.
will actually blow people off.
I'm top
like,
7% in a car soccer game. With over 1,300 hours in it.
yeah.
That's rough,
I
buddy.
can meet the.
Yeah, so the danger of video games for boys is like boys are made to achieve, and video games, you can achieve things in there. The problem is that the achievements, not to be a nihilist, but they're empty.
Yeah. it's
So like
very
you're
bad.
hardwired to like get promotions at work, and be more in shape and get better at sports and like be a better parent, and like you're supposed to get better and better and better, and the danger of video games is it hijacks that natural drive to self improve, and it hands you a digital banner that says good job.
He did die.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of actually know something about my favorite fighter.
That's something.
This is
that's
more of a
actually
thing to
weird.
know.
That was good enough for me.
It's not the exact thing that you were talking about, but it's kind of the same. Like randomly after this winter, because this winter was long. I hated it. It was horrible.
Oh, I hate winters.
And then I'm like, I
My
want to.
head was.
My dad was actually getting mad at me because every day I would ask him, "Can we build something?" Because I really want to build something, like just something random that I want to build. And he finally called me one night. He's like, "Okay, we're gonna build a cornhole set and a giant Jenga set." And I'm like, "From scratch?" He's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Perfect." I don't know why, but I've just had like a random urge to just build things instead
Do
of
things.
play Rocket League.
The
Good.
problem
Healthier.
that happens when it's like winter is that there's nothing to do. It's
Yeah.
cold.
I miss the
It's
outside.
wet.
As much as I play Rocket
It's
League, I miss
dark.
the outside.
Yeah, the animals don't stay here. Native
It's-
Americans that lived here didn't stay here.
It's the dark that
So
gets
we're
to
the only
me.
ones that try to force that to happen.
Anybody over the age of 80 goes
It is
to
the dark.
Arizona.
It's the dark that always gets me. Like it's dark right now.
That's why I got
It's so deeply annoying.
This podcast sponsored by Happy Land.
That is
Happy
not.
Land.
Oh.
You get sued for that.
You're gonna get sued for that. Yeah, don't say that.
You can't say things responsibly.
Oh, let's take another.
I want a Happy Lamp. I want to see if it works. Does it work?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Really? All right.
Kind of want one.
Yeah, I
mean,
got
it's-
the. I got
it's
the.
too late
floor-
now. I can go outside now.
The
But,
weird thing is, it gives you headaches when you first start, or at least it did to me.
well, yeah, because did you use it in the middle of winter at first?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're probably
I
getting
think I
a
got it
bunch
for
of vitamin
Christmas.
D after or sunlight.
yeah, but
You
it's
seem
like,
sad.
huh?
Merry Christmas.
No, I asked for
Ah,
it.
okay.
Yeah, that'd be an awkward thing. It's like, yeah,
here's a surprise Happy Lamp.
yeah, it'd be like giving
What's
someone a
wrong with
vacuum
me?
cleaner or a toothbrush or something. It's like, what the heck's this supposed to mean?
How lame are like all adult Christmas parties? Like you don't get anything fun. You get clothes.
Socks.
You get excited about the lamest things, you know.
Do
when
you
you're
get
an
excited
adult.
about like new socks?
No,
Yeah,
socks.
I do.
Actually,
Socks
I
would be a
did because
no.
new socks are nice.
I'm trying to think of something lame that I got. That was
I have
exciting.
fluffy socks right now. So great. 10 out of 10.
I was really happy about getting my toothbrush, the Sonic Care or whatever it's called.
Yeah, just like micro.
It actually
the other day.
is. So if you're like, hey, how do I change my life for like $40 or whatever, the Sonic Care toothbrush, there's no going back.
No, not
It-
not the one that like spits water out the.
What?
Is
The
it
water,
between the
the
gums?
water pick.
Yes,
My wife swears by that. I haven't made that move yet, but the
Mm.
Sonic Care toothbrush, like
I was considering that.
how my mouth feels in the
expensive.
morning when I wake up,
Mhm.
like compared to how it used to feel. Like
Mm.
you know how you
It's-
feel gross when you wake up.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's not even close. So if you don't have one of those, go get it. is
I just
sponsored.
got a
Not
This
sponsored.
podcast.
Not sponsored.
Something about Happy Lamp and
Sonic.
Sonicare toothbrush.
okay, yeah,
No, not sponsored.
Life changing.
life
Life
changing.
changing.
Yeah, and maybe heart disease preventing. I've heard.
Heart disease.
Yeah. 'cause
Yeah, build up.
There's a
Oh,
there's a
Mhm.
big
Yeah.
correlation between plaque in your mouth that becomes plaque in your heart.
I saw this picture once of this person, and the plaque had become like
Oh,
an
film.
extra set of teeth, basically. So they had to like
Ew.
chip it out.
That's
And it was like, how do you even manage that?
Mm. That's what eating KFC will do to you.
Taco Bell.
I went like 10 years without going to the dentist because I didn't want to and I couldn't afford it and stuff like that. And when I went back, I had one cavity.
That's not that bad.
It was
actually.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was an incredible
Feat.
event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns
Yeah,
out
you
brushing your
s-
teeth is pretty important.
You still have pearly whites.
Mm-hmm. Floss too.
Ki- There were so many people during the musical, like I
We
talked to after.
saw you.
Yeah, they
we
saw,
saw
you
your
because of your
teeth.
teeth.
They would
That's
shine.
hilarious.
It
And then-
caught me off guard.
And then I asked, like, oh, I was right next to him. Did you see me? Like, you were right next to me. I thought you were sitting next to Lena.
Oh, dang.
I'm like, why would I sit next to you?
Have you ever felt so invisible before?
I saw Mr. Ruffus.
So dark.
Yeah, so invisible.
Mr. Ruffins' shiny teeth, because every
Oh,
time he
gosh.
smiled, you could tell right away. And two, Isaiah was sitting in the front, mouth open, like
Oh, yeah,
arms
he was
spread like this.
asleep.
He was passed out.
Yeah.
And I laughed really hard,
There were a
actually,
couple-
on
I'm
stage.
a
I
walking
broke,
advertisement now for that song.
broke character.
They were gonna see him like, is the Sonic toothbrush really that life changing? Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
All right.
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we have we did 13.
That's not bad.
Good thing I have 29 more to go.
We're gonna be on top.
I feel
30.
I feel like we've like tied a bunch of them together though.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's,
sure how many.
that's why they
unique-
went quickly.
Yeah. Oh, that was the 13 we tied together.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
I feel like we've been here for like no more than an hour.
All right, let's
It's
get
also-
after it then. What do
Okay.
you got next?
So I have some for my friends because once they heard me, I was making this thing. They added to it because my friends are weird. So my friend, I'm not gonna name drop. Okay, so they
This is recorded.
they don't watch it.
This will be forever though.
It will be forever,
Yeah.
forever out there.
John Smith did this. It's okay. How many John Smiths are
Let's
in the
just say
US?
Matt Brown. It's like
Matt Brown.
friend Matt
Okay,
Brown.
so my friend Matt Brown, like real close, real buddy of mine, right? They brought up abortion and put it on the list.
Ooh, but they're not here.
No, they're not here.
Okay.
Very sad. Very sad.
John Smith.
John Smith.
That's
Sounds
not
like
that many.
really isn't.
I feel like
I was expecting like a million.
I've never met another Ada.
So what's the question though?
Oh, like, is it okay? Is it morally alright?
No.
thank you.
No. And like, teachers, we're not supposed to do this, but the year's almost over and I'm leaving soon.
What are they gonna do? Fire you?
But like, as a teacher, I'm not afraid to like. And here's the split: is like people that are pro-abortion will always say that a fetus is not a child, but like I believe it is, and then like as a teacher, I believe in protecting children. So it's like that simple to me. The people that say that a fetus is not a child,
Yeah, it is a child as our baby.
I've, like-
However,
well, even when even when it's 8 cells or whatever, to me, that's just a super young human being.
Mhm.
Like people say it's not alive. Well, if it's not alive, how does it grow? Well, because the mother feeds it. Okay, so when a baby is born and it's breastfed, that baby's also not alive. Like I've never heard a coherent argument. Yeah, so it's like you can start with, okay, a newborn baby, is that a human being? Oh yes. Okay, what if the umbilical cord's still attached? Still yes. Okay, what if the baby is right next to its mother? Still yes. Okay, what if the baby is now put back inside of the mother? Still yes. Okay, what if the baby was one day younger than it is right then when it was born? Okay, still yes. Okay, one day before that. You'll never find like a defining moment,
When
right?
it's not.
And then people will try to make things up, right? Heartbeats, brain, feeling, smiling, like all these things, but they never.
smiling.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
baby
here's-
I didn't come
yeah.
up. I didn't
If
If
come
you
up
don't have any
smiling.
emotions, you're not a human being. And that's like on the flip end when people get really old and then they're like, you know, the argument for euthanasia, which is like mercifully killing people
Yeah.
Kill
that
all
are,
people.
yeah, whatever the situation is, or paralyzed and things like that. I've never heard a coherent argument for abortion that didn't rely on somehow denying or trying to argue the fact that a fetus is not a person. That's like the crux of the argument, and to me, I've never heard an argument that was coherent.
Yeah,
So-
it's a hard topic to debate about. Personally, I am pro-choice. That's just because I have his own family stuff. And I was talking to my grandma about this, and I told you about this earlier when I was debating with a different friend of mine.
Okay.
She's still very mad about that, by the way.
John Smith, you mean?
John Smith, my friend, my bestie, Matt Brown, whatever his name is, besties. We were talking about this, and I was like, this is like one of the world's leading. She studies babies and baby hearts.
Mhm.
That's like her thing.
Yep.
And the biggest argument is heartbeat. So I asked her about it, and she was just like, she's pro-choice. And she said, I think that it is a baby when it is that time. However, it is not my job.
All right. So if a person has
As a doctor.
pacemaker, they're no longer a human being.
Yeah, they don't
If
have-
we replace
they-
someone's heart with a mechanical heart, they're no longer a person.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a fake person. It's a
So
robot.
it's once again, it's like, okay, is that actually what a person is?
Yeah.
You know.
She said that the way it's developed, to her, it is a baby. It's her job as a doctor, if the person wants it to be, it's her job to take care of it, right? It's her job to take care of the baby. However, if that person wants to get rid of her, it's not her choice to say you can't. That's up to them.
This
That's
is
their
like
body, it's their
professional. This
decision.
is professional standards.
Yeah.
And what I'm arguing is that it shouldn't be legal. So right now it is legal, right? So
Yeah.
like as a professional, I'm not sure she has a choice to keep a job, whatever it is.
The thing is,
And I'm not trying to guilt this person. I'm saying that you need to have like a complete policy change.
Yeah. The thing is, people will attempt abortions whether they are legal or not.
Okay, so then should we legalize all drugs?
People trying to legalize marijuana, that's the same
Okay.
argument with that.
Okay, marijuana does not. Should we legalize meth? People still try to get it.
Yeah.
They make it themselves. So like, you're right that it's kind of like when we talked about cell phones, that sometimes government intervention doesn't actually solve the problems.
This thing is depressing, by the way.
But all right, so people still murder even though it's illegal. I don't know what you're trying to pull up on the
It's
screen
a
right now.
world meter. It's how
It's really sketchy.
if you watch how people die.
Yeah, that one was sketchy. I don't think that's the actual
Yeah.
website. So.
We don't need to pull
We,
that up right now.
I like.
But
it's
yeah,
so
so
depressing.
so outlawing murder doesn't stop people from murdering,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
not-
doesn't stop people from theft. But would you say that those things should be legal also?
You can yeah.
So it's not coherent again. So if it's a violation of rights, if a person is being killed, which is what I believe it is, then it should be illegal. So then you really have to, if you want to convince me, you have to somehow prove to me it's not a person that's being killed.
Yeah, here you go.
And like
It's-
once again, I'm 30 something years old. I've never heard one that was logical.
Yeah. Money spent on it.
122.
What's really
billion.
depressing is watching the suicides go up. That always kills me.
There's countries where suicide's illegal too.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is. And that's like a whole
Yeah,
other argument, but it's like,
Well, in Alabama, it's
So
illegal to
stupid.
jump from an 8-story building. So.
Well, it's your life. Why can't you do what you want with it? So it's like it's nihilism again.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just, and then the hardest one I think for me is like sexual assaults. But then I was just thinking about, like, for example, if my father or mother committed a crime and they put me to death for it, I would be really upset about that verdict.
Really?
Yeah, I would be. And so like this idea of like a man assaults woman, and then so the solution for that is actually not the death sentence for the assaulter, it's a death sentence for the baby.
What do you think would
Which
be?
to me makes no sense, right?
Yep.
So if you had death sentence for sexual assault, that actually makes sense to me. Fine. But like the idea that like this person goes to jail for, I don't know, 2 years or 4 years, I don't even know what the crime is. But then like, yeah. So I think part of the horrid nature of sexual assault is that you force like this other person to like carry a baby to term, which is actually
hard
hard and dangerous
and painful.
and yeah, so it's like the crime doesn't end with how it started.
It's also
So,
very
like-
traumatizing.
Yeah, exactly. So but that, to me, that doesn't mean like, well, so abortion is also traumatic. So then, like, a lot of times women that have it, they don't feel better.
Mm.
In fact, they feel like,
Worse, yeah.
sometimes they feel like, I just killed somebody, you know, so it's not always like that.
Sorry, one sec. Everyone's text. I swear, I'm gonna leave this group chat. I'm gonna leave it anyway.
Hey, let's go.
Group chats are bad. Why do
Yeah.
they exist? It's a
Yeah.
waste of time.
Me and my friends did something similar with group chats. We made like a giant Spotify playlist. There's
Yeah.
like 7 of us. It's pretty great.
But
Anyway.
part of my thing is I'm like, even though it probably doesn't seem like it to you guys now that I'm like 30 something years old and I've made up my mind on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
I'm actually extremely open minded,
Set in your ways.
and like I'm at where I'm at now, like arguing with people for years, viewing evidence, blah blah blah, and I've kind of like settled on things, but it's not because I was like, oh, I've always been this way. You know, I went through a lot of different phases of philosophy and thought.
Mhm.
Everybody does.
And abortion was one of them where I flip flopped around as I learned things and thought about it, whatever. So.
So what is your, like, if it's an assault or if the woman doesn't want the baby, what do you suggest we do with the kid?
Adoption.
My
Sorry. Adoption isn't your solution to abortion, but that's just my opinion.
my
Sorry,
older
continue.
brother.
It's not what?
It's not your solution to abortion because
It's not my solution. I just said it
no,
was my
no.
solution.
It's like
It's not a good one.
it's not a good solution
Yeah.
because adoption is hard, and a lot of people don't get adopted. They end up living in the system until they like die. My mom is adopted. My uncle's adopted. It's
Living in the system until they die, like at 77.
no, like a lot of people
Until 18. Then they have
live to 18
Okay.
and then they're
So how
kicked
long
out.
is your
They don't
life?
have anything to live, depending on what they do after they
So
turn
the
18.
average would be 77.
Yeah.
So you have a bad start to your life, right? But you have from 18 to 77.
To turn it around.
Yes, and like, life's not always easy. Like it's better that they're alive than
Yeah.
not being alive. That's the point of meaning versus not meaning. I think it's very rare for you to say, "Oh, it was better off if that person was dead."
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, my older brother was adopted, and I didn't even know he existed until I was like 10. But he's had a phenomenal life. The only thing I'm mad at him about is that he went into college at the University of Valley City. Very smart. And he went into like computer engineering and stuff like that. Like he had a bright future, and then he dropped out.
But
like-
we don't know anything about death. That's part of the problem. So like when we make this judgment, it's like, well, you know, it'd be more merciful to this future human being if they were aborted now, as opposed to going through the system or whatever you call it, adoption agencies, and then at 18 they live in foster care or whatever the heck you want to call it, and then from 18 to 77 they struggle somehow. So I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been adopted before, as far as I know.
It's nice to know.
I've never been aborted either. I've also never been pregnant. So like all I'm doing, that's the thing, is sometimes when you have personal experience, it can change you.
Sorry.
So it is a little bit arrogant for me to make any judgments on this.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah. Everyone's entitled to your own opinion.
Even if the opinion's wrong.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, but I haven't, like,
There's no such thing
There's,
as a
like,
wrong
you-
opinion.
unless
tell me I'm wrong. Like, I would love to be enlightened by anybody,
If I had the,
so that I can live my life better.
I'll go home and I'll research and I'll write a good argument. This is all like off the top of my dome right now, so. And I have not had the 30 whatever.
Yeah, so then, like, what would you
years.
be looking for? You have to think about, like, you would have to prove to me, basically, that a baby is not alive at some point. That would be the time where you can. So, like, I think the law is it second trimester or something?
Yeah.
Or first
Yeah.
trimester's off limits? So, like, we have this legal
Second.
distinguish, you know, we have this line, a proclamation. They never make sense to me. So if you could find one that made sense, you could change my mind.
All right.
There's a bunch of states going back on all that now.
If you could somehow convince me that the baby being alive is worse than being dead, I don't know. I don't even know what kind of angles you would be able to take.
It's not that I'm saying it's worse than being alive. I'm saying, well, if the foster care system and adoption systems were better, then I think it would. Sorry, my mom texted me.
Yeah.
It would be, it'd be fine to adopt, but it's severely flawed, and adoption is something where, depending on how it's like brought up, and depending on how your family is, sometimes you will never, it's like very, very traumatizing. Like you will never really feel like you're part of a family. And I think that why would you have a kid knowing that's going to be like the outcome is kind of like what I see. And sometimes it's
I
not
guess
planned.
the simple answer is always that, like, by
Yeah.
the value system, death is worse
Yeah.
than despair. Because there's a chance that eventually that kid finds meaning.
There's a chance.
And maybe they don't find meaning, so they're emancipated or whatever it's called at 18, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that adopted kid doesn't find meaning until they make their own family. So maybe it's not until 24. That's still super young. Maybe it's not till 30. But then from 30 to 77, maybe they have meaning. Or maybe they find meaning in their job. Or maybe they find meaning wherever. But yeah, so it might be despair until 18, or it might be despair until 24. It might be despair until 30. But as long as they're not having despair before they die at an average age of 77,
Average age.
so it could be 120.
Yeah.
So they might not find meaning till they're 40, but you might have a centurion that's an adopted kid. Could be a short life,
Mhm.
right? But it's still like, so they died in the end anyway, so what was the difference? I don't know.
That could be made about any
Nihilism,
person.
exactly.
Nihilism.
Exactly. So like by the system or the philosophy that we kind of all agreed to at the beginning, I thought we agreed to it anyway,
Yeah.
that meaning was better than not meaning, and that life is better than death. This is kind of like the purpose of philosophy, like I said, is you make better decisions. So like we thought we had a philosophy, but now like I guess we're trying to apply it to something difficult.
Yeah. It's a hard argument to have because obviously none of us have been aborted.
Yeah, I've never been
Yeah,
pregnant.
don't think so.
Never been pregnant.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Soon.
Science is advancing so quickly.
Yeah, any day now.
I don't know if I would choose that. Well, this is way hypothetical. Like, let's say, like, you have married couples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then you could choose whether or not, like, if I had to choose between me being pregnant and my wife being pregnant,
That's the fun.
if I really loved my wife, I would always get pregnant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But deep down,
Ooh,
I don't
that's a good one.
I want her to be pregnant.
Yeah.
So that's human beings for me. We're selfish.
Is ignorance really bliss?
No.
Because people are like, people say that when they don't know stuff, it's easier for them to be happy. Like, I wish I'd just never known that. I would have been so much happier. And you can kind of see that too. People who are very naive, very oblivious, are happy. They are happy in their life. However, that goes away with like life experience and what's
To me,
happening.
happiness is with wisdom, knowledge, knowing things makes me happy. Being able to be a knowledgeable person in whatever sense that I am makes me happy. And in some scenarios, ignorance is bliss. Like, but for me, no. I have to know everything. Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely can understand where ignorance would be bliss, but I think in the bigger picture overall, I'd say no.
Chad Mill.
Pull up
podcast.
bimodal curves.
Bimodal curves.
Yeah, I think it's called bimodal. Yeah, a bimodal graph maybe.
Happiness is so like weird. It is impossible. People say it's impossible to achieve, right? It's impossible, but it's not. It's weird to me.
It's very weird. That's another realm of philosophy.
So peaks, dips.
So
and
the
goes
Greeks,
back up.
if I remember correctly, the Greeks didn't believe people knew. They didn't know if they were happy until after they were once they were dead. So like, people will talk about like, hey, do you think that person was happy? Like, they would like, it was like a judgment that as human beings we're somehow wired to be dissatisfied, and that or you could only be happy in the past.
Yeah.
So you're like, wow, when I was 12, I was really happy.
Mhm.
And but when you were actually 12, you never felt happy day by day.
Yeah.
But then you look back on things. I can say I'm extremely happy right now.
You don't even work.
I love
You've
being
said
married.
that multiple times.
Love being married. Yeah. I don't feel like I work. Yep. There's life is very good. I'm extremely blessed right now. I have almost no worries.
Hashtag blessed.
Yep. And it's a rare situation to be in, and I'm enjoying every second of it, and I know it's not going to last forever. But I'm stinking happy right now.
Mm.
That's
And
good.
soon you're gonna be unemployed. You don't have to work even if
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I'm going to be unemployed soon, and I'm not worried.
Yeah.
I saw this McDonald's sign that said $17 an hour.
Flip burgers
So
for
I'm like- I'm
$17 an hour.
Yeah, and I, as a college
Sure.
graduate teacher, I don't think I would be turned away at that interview.
Yeah, true.
So like I
Considering that
feel
you're
like
14
literally the quote unquote the worst thing that could
You
happen
work at a Burger King.
is that I'm working for $17 an hour at like a job that is well below my skill level because I've
Yeah.
already worked in food before.
That's stupid to me. People are like it could be so much worse. You could be like flipping burgers, but it's like that's really not the worst
right
thing.
now it's not bad. In fact, and this is where I come off as really harsh. It's like impossible to be poor in America right now.
Yeah, as long as you have the
As long as you're
willingness to
healthy.
work.
Like I think the main problem is like if you have medical conditions
Yeah.
and like you have medication to buy and it's hard for you to work and like stuff like that. But there's a lot of people right now that
Healthcare is ridiculous.
they could work 2 jobs
Yeah. I feel like one
because you
thing
can work one job and almost be middle class right now.
one thing that could be an exception is people who are self-employed.
Yep.
But
Finding work that way.
yeah,
Sure.
finding work self-employed, but that's also you don't have to be self-employed, but for some people that's like what they want to do their entire life. And once they do it and they can't do it, it's like a hard thing for them to go through.
Exactly. So I heard a piece of wisdom from my dad. He said, and he was a man and I was a boy or whatever. But he said, George, every man is self-employed. He meant every human being.
Yeah.
Everyone is ultimately working for themselves, but like you said, and I know what you meant by self-employed, like running your own business
Yeah.
or whatever. But ultimately, yeah, losing that decision, like how you decide your own time, that's the hard part. It's not actually getting a job.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted to do this, and somehow life is telling me I can't do that right now.
Mhm.
That's the hard part. But yeah, the actual economics of it, very easy right now.
Yeah. Yeah, like
But yeah, then you're
Yeah.
doing something you don't want to do, so you're actually working
yeah.
as opposed to.
That's why I want to do
Imagine
meteorology.
working.
If I can do something that I want to do, like meteorology, then I'll never work a day in my life.
Yeah, like
I
Exactly.
feel like that's the goal of everybody is to
Mhm.
be able to make
some-
money and not feel like they're working.
Exactly.
That's why people are trying to do YouTube so much because everyone thinks it's going to be great, even though it is a stressful job for the bigger
Mhm.
YouTubers. They have to build a brand and everything. But
if you enjoy it,
yeah,
Yeah.
if you enjoy it, you're not
Yep.
working
Exactly.
and you're still making money. So
there's some people who like go for high paying jobs, right? Like being a doctor.
My dad did that.
He was a doctor?
No, he was a medical physicist.
Mm,
He made a lot of
classic.
money, but he did not enjoy his job. So
Yeah.
he lived his entire life saving money so he could take time off. So between contracts, he would like take a year off because he was avoiding working so bad because he was actually working. He was doing something he didn't want to do. He wasn't making his 8-year-old self happy.
8-year-olds.
It's really sad.
That is sad. Where people do stuff
not
they
the
don't
only
want to
one.
do. Yeah, I know.
That's
That's
like
the
what's
thing.
normal.
It's like
Yeah.
super common.
Mhm.
It's like my family really wanted me to be an engineer. Fine. I hate math, but they really wanted me to be an engineer. That was like their thing for a while. They would give me like textbooks for my birthday. That was like they wanted me to be an engineer, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that because it's gonna make me unhappy. I'm not gonna do it, and they were super
Yeah.
mad at me for that. But it's just like why. Money is a necessity to live, right? Like it's not like a biological necessity, but you need to buy things to eat. To do
Yeah, it's
all
how you
stuff.
get food.
Yeah.
It's our proxy for
Yeah.
yeah.
However, at a certain point, if it's not worth if it's not worth living at that point, I don't think it's worth it.
Not everything is equally meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everything is equally meaningful.
Mhm.
And there are some things I like that can be tied to other things that make more money. And money isn't always happiness. It's never is happiness, really.
Well, sometimes it is.
Sometimes people
Money
really enjoy
itself
it.
isn't, but it can buy things.
It can buy things that make you happy. It can buy a personal claw machine, right?
I've had great moments that were totally free, but I've also had moments like my trip to Iceland was not free. It was affordable. I think the plane ticket was like $600.
Oh, that's
That's
cheap.
actually not.
And then,
That's cheap.
and then we had food. Now the food was expensive because it's an island,
Yeah.
and they can't produce enough for all these tourists. So everything's imported, which
Yeah.
means it's more expensive.
Yeah.
So each meal was like $20, which
That's
back then.
Alright.
Yeah.
So
back-
now
yeah,
it's
true.
probably 40,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the point is like it wasn't free, but it was like I was there with my older brother and my mom and my stepdad and stuff. Like that was an incredible experience. It was affordable, but I've also had totally free things. I've also had really expensive things that were not enjoyable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But like, it's obvious that you enjoy. Like, the book had the cognitive behavioral therapy stuff in there.
Classic.
It's obvious that like that's a road you want to walk down, and that is a skill that people will pay for. And I don't think you would ever feel like you're working. And so like, why not? And then your family will be fine with it. My family didn't want me to be a teacher, and so I wandered aimlessly with like this calling inside of me to be a teacher. And then I kind of ran from it because my parents didn't want me to do that. And so I didn't graduate college till I was 27 because I dropped out because the thing I wanted to do wasn't an option.
Why
So
do you
it's
want to teach so bad?
I think I was born to be a teacher. The end. I didn't choose it.
Interesting.
It's temperament. It's personality. It's the same reason why you're attracted to psychology and the same reason Joey is attracted to meteorology.
It's just
It's
thinking
temperament, yeah, meets your environment.
I just think it's interesting, and
Right, yeah, you're born with an intrinsic.
and I've always kind of liked medical stuff, and that was kind of, once I got older, I kind of realized that that was kind of like the section I wanted to go into.
For
That's
me,
it.
when it comes to meteorology, like the reason why I want to do it is there's two reasons. One, at a young age, I realized the magic of cartography and maps. I really like maps and graphs. I don't know why, but it's just, I don't know, it fascinates me. But meteorology, like weather and stuff like that, was a big personal growth thing for me because I used to be deathly terrified anytime I heard a rumble of thunder up until probably the age of 9. And then randomly something switched one summer and I liked it. I
Wow.
enjoyed it.
You want to go in that cave.
Aha
Yeah.
moment.
And I think I was 10 and there was one time there was a thunderstorm and I went outside with an umbrella and sat in it.
And a kite and a key.
And I kind of discovered electricity all over
Yeah,
again.
wow. Well done.
So I think me overcoming, because that used to be like my biggest obstacle in life was why was I so afraid of weather, and then once I wasn't anymore, I opened a whole new can of worms that I enjoyed and still do. Even when it comes to all that really sciencey stuff with meteorology, I still like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Hit us with question number 18, 20.
We have 25 left.
Oh my.
I told you there were a
We
lot.
might need a part 2.
We might need a part 2.
It's all right. We got a month left of school, so.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Make
God
fun
it's
of it.
almost over.
I'm gonna miss middle school. High school's gonna be hard.
8th grade was great.
Yeah.
Eighth
High
grade.
school's better.
Is it?
College is better than high
I
school.
heard it just gets better as you get older.
After being in college.
I've heard
it's
the
better.
opposite. I've
Like-
heard it gets worse.
Sixth grade,
Depends on the decisions you make.
6th and
Yeah.
7th grade were really hard years for me. 7th grade wasn't as bad, but 6th grade was like
7th was the hardest in middle school.
burning, like
This year,
things
even
are
though
falling
my
down.
grades have been struggling and like the classes have been harder, and most of them have been, it's been a breeze compared to last year. Last year was, I don't know why, but I struggled in 7th, especially with math. Like I struggled this year with math, but last year, because me and Luke were talking about this, and like last year was the first year we were actually challenged in math, and then we had a hard time adapting and keeping up with the speed.
I have a question with tying back to that.
Okay.
Math? Don't ask me math questions. Don't make me
Two
embarrass
times-
myself.
2 plus 2. 2 plus 2.
I don't know, 21.
Okay. Gifted kids. If you're not challenged, like I was never challenged
Interesting.
in school.
Okay.
I was never challenged in English.
Yeah.
I've always been very good at English. I've not speaking it, but like reading it.
Yeah.
I learned to read at 4, and I had a college reading level by the time I was in 3rd grade, right? I was very, very good at reading. I still am.
I was like 4th grade. Okay. I'm a little behind.
You're a little behind,
I'm
Joey.
sorry.
I got into enrichment right away. That was like the third grade is
Third
the year I
grade.
got into it with Joey.
I'm surprised I got that test. Or I got
It was like a 2-hour test. You got popcorn
like
afterwards,
horrifying.
100% worth it.
Mhm.
But it's like I was never challenged in that. It was painfully easy. Like even to this day, I sleep in my English classes because I know that no matter what it is, I know how to do it. However, when it comes to things like I had trouble with, I'm really good at math. I'm in algebra and stuff, right? But I'm not good compared to other people in class. So it's like
Kylan is something.
Kylan messes around so much, but he's so good.
I don't know how he does it.
It's so
actually
good.
insane.
But that's like the thing. That's how it is. It's easy
Matt
for
Brown.
him.
And he got
Brown.
3rd place in Dune, so I'm not that impressed.
Third place.
It's
He
a board-
tied
board
last
game.
with me.
Yeah, I
It's a board
know.
game. Yeah.
We need to play that.
He
like,
did. I
every
actually did
game.
notice that, like, sometimes he was analyzing what to do, and he was
Yeah.
speaking out loud, and he was doing math.
Yeah.
He was dividing and multiplying and being
Yeah.
like, if I do this, I get this. And
That's
this and
just
this.
that's
this is
how
worth
his
that
brain
much.
works. Yeah.
Like, yeah, he gets it.
It's terrifying to watch. But
And it led him to tied for last place.
I caught up. I was 2
No,
spots
but
behind.
he did say insightful things. I'm like, good. He's figuring it out because
Yeah.
he hasn't played as much as we have. So
And he doesn't have a cheat sheet.
yeah.
masters of the game.
What's your point?
What I'm saying
It's the
is,
so what?
people on the internet, classics, one of our favorite topics today,
We love the internet.
Best place.
come up with the term like gifted kid syndrome. So that's like when you were gifted when you were younger and you had like very, very high expectations. And you either go one way where it's like you get older and you actually like are challenged and you can't figure things out and you don't understand how to deal with that because it's always come easily to you. You've always been put on a pedestal of, oh, you're smart.
That's
Like,
literally
you can
me.
do- yeah, see,
math-
that's what you.
With
That's
math,
how it
that's
is.
me, yeah.
Like I was super gifted in 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade and not 6th grade. 6th
Sixth
grade was
grade
hell.
was like a little hard, but I could keep up. But after
6th
that,
grade
I
was a
didn't
burning
really
fire. Once COVID happened,
Yeah, so you're not supposed to praise kids for their intelligence. You're supposed to praise them for hard work.
but
Yeah.
it wasn't
But we
I was
screw.
very praised
that
for
way.
I don't think that's common. I don't think that's wisdom.
in my
Yeah.
family. It was very much like, if you're good at this, then
You're smart.
you have to be above average to be average. That's kind of
That's
like
true. Yeah.
the mentality of at least my family, you know. And
Luckily, my family kind of backed down on that because like that's how it used to be for me. Like I was always expected to get A's, but now I'm allowed to get B's and C's. Like,
Oh, same.
They won't be that mad
there were some
because they
things.
realize that it's not as easy anymore.
There were some things that happened, and so like they eased back a little bit, but
Mm.
it was very like, you know, you have to get perfect things on things, stuff. So once it got harder and I didn't understand it, I would work like 15, 16 times as hard as I normally would. I would stay up for like 2-3 days straight just trying to understand math stuff,
Yeah.
and I couldn't understand it, so eventually I just gave up and my grades went to crap.
Mhm.
And I was like, so what? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters
Okay,
at that
yep.
point.
Here we are again.
Yep.
Because I
All the
spent
roads lead back
all
to
the roads. But it was like nothing really matters because like I spent all this time in it. I worked really hard and I'm supposed to be good at it, and yet I still can't understand it.
Yeah.
And that's gifted kid syndrome. Is like when you grew up, quote unquote gifted, and then the world hits you and you're kind of like, whoa,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not, and that's really hard because like you build I built my whole personality around being smart. That was my thing. I knew what I
Right.
was doing, and when I didn't, it was like I wasn't.
do I do
didn't
now?
have anything to me anymore. I had no value, and that was very interesting to deal with.
Yeah. It was hard to adapt,
Yeah.
and I feel like in most ways I have, especially considering my mom's smarter than me, which we would expect, but she's like really smart with math. So math, she helped me adapt with that, and I still am adapting with that. But I feel like 7th grade was like the period where I was beginning to adapt to all the new things that were in like middle school life, and I think when 8th grade hit, I'd finally figured most of the stuff out. And so this year's been a breeze because nothing really has hit me that hard yet. Like nothing has been difficult, really, especially in school. But I think that once I have to adapt again, then stuff will start to get hard again.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's life is just a stock market crash. Like it just keeps going up, and eventually it's gonna fall down, and just can go up again. And
On an upward trajectory.
yeah, like it always goes up and
That's what
down
you
and
hope
up
for.
and down and up
Yeah,
and down.
people reach plateaus and then they have breakthroughs and they reach plateaus. Like that's a very common thing.
Yeah.
I think you guys are getting to something. So we have I don't know what you call it, conventional wisdom or culture or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but it's wrong.
Mhm.
And we program people to believe that like being gifted is a way of being. It's like who you are as an essence.
Yeah.
And being an expert at things or being gifted, whatever, it's actually it's not a way of being. It's a habit.
It's stressful.
So like when you talk to older people that are quote unquote experts, other people will call them experts, but true experts would be like thinking about all the things that they don't know, right?
Mhm.
They'd be like, oh, I wouldn't call myself an expert,
Yeah.
right? But other people are like, shut up, you're obviously an expert.
Yeah.
And here's what's being identified is not only what they know, right? But being an expert is it's like a way of thinking and a way of living and a way of being. And you guys were starting to get around the edges of that, of like, I think you called it adjustment or whatever.
Yeah,
of like,
transitioning.
you went from I don't have to do anything to get everything
Yeah.
to wow, I'm actually going to have to study, work
Work.
hard,
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yep.
this is like a normal thing, but what happened to you guys was
We were dumped into
you
it
were
fast.
told
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean? And it happened to me in college. I was like, what do you, like, people told me my whole life, George, you're going to have to study someday. I was also told I would have to learn cursive. I did
No one
learn
needs,
cursive.
No one needs that.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
one
So
needs
you get
cursive.
lied to sometimes.
Yeah.
But they also said, like, George, someday you're going to have to study. You need to learn how good study habits, blah, blah, blah. Right? I'm like, that's for other people.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
not for me. When I got to college,
Ooh,
it was for
college.
me. It was for me. Right? And so you have to learn expertise, which is not actually stagnant. It's not what you become. It's a way of being. It's a constant process. And that's all you guys have discovered, and you've only discovered it at 14.
Yeah.
So this is actually a good thing,
Yeah, we learned young.
which is an advantage, though.
Yeah.
It is.
I didn't find that out, until later. I was like, and then the things I wasn't good at, I convinced myself it didn't matter. So I had A's. I had I don't remember how many classes I had in high school. It wasn't 8 periods, but I had a semester class. So I had
Yeah.
4 A's and 4 F's. And the
Okay.
F's were classes I quote unquote didn't care about,
Yeah.
which was really, those are the ones I was challenged in. And then I had 4 A's, which was like history,
Yeah.
psychology, because I wanted to be a social scientist. Well,
Mhm.
what were my F's in? Math and all the things I wasn't good at.
Classics.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to hide from myself, right? And then when I got to college and I cared about all the classes because I picked all of the classes, and then I had to study, that was a problem for
Yeah.
me. For me, that's when I hit that wall that you
I-
guys are talking about.
I hit the wall in 4th grade, so a lot younger than you. But
Well, I did too. I just convinced myself that it wasn't happening.
It didn't matter, yeah.
Yeah. So I was hiding from it.
I was taking all the math classes, like advanced math, partially because they stopped doing 2. So like you couldn't take English and math at the same time unless you were like ridiculous. Yeah, like Joey, they got rid of it completely. There's no gifted classes anymore,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing and a bad thing because enrichment was like that was the only time I had a hard time, and part of me loved it, other part of me hated it with a passion, but I also loved it because I love Miss Kelly and she was a great teacher,
Yeah, Miss
one of the
Kelly.
best teachers I've ever had. I love Miss Kelly, town 10, but it once I got pulled out of that, it was like everything kind of just went like a house of cards, and the bottom was pulled out, and then everything kind of collapsed in on itself, and I had like my own little fourth grade
Identity crisis.
identity crisis, like
What am I supposed
existential.
to do
It's
now?
hilarious.
I ended up having kind of like a mini breakdown.
That's
as,
when
like,
Ada
a
started
okay.
dyeing her hair black and
Cynical.
painting only in black and blue. She's like, at least I'll be gifted in art. She started throwing paint to the walls.
I
This
did
is my
go-
soul.
I did go through a phase
This
like
is
that.
my soul revealed for the world, and this black can of paint
That was-
thrown onto the white wall.
I dyed my hair for the first time in 4th grade because of that little identity crisis.
Nice.
Clearly, it's never ended.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing crisis.
Yeah.
Discovering, you're discovering who you are.
But that's okay too, because we're very young, so we don't have to have things figured out.
You're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's just messing around, having fun, not having fun.
Experimenting.
Yeah.
Trying to uncover things.
This is probably like completely ill said and like way too early because I'm 14, but I feel like I'll never really have to discover who I am because I feel like I already have. Like I feel like my views will change,
Parts.
but I feel like most core parts of me have been set since birth, and I don't think they'll change.
Okay.
Oh, I get that.
Like
Yeah.
meteorology with me, once it hit me in like when I was like 9 or 10, I don't think that'll ever change. I do think I'm gonna be an atmospheric scientist.
Okay.
I think the person I was
Could be.
changes constantly. Like, I am not the same as I was 2 weeks ago. I didn't know I was allergic to cats, right? Like, there are certain things you learn about yourself and you figure out as you go along. And I pushed myself to figure out who I was my whole life, like, very fast, for a lot of reasons. But I didn't let myself really grow. I was kind of like, you should be like this and this and this. Like, you're not living up to these standards. You need to be these standards if you want to figure out who you are. You need to be this if you want to grow up. And it's like, now I don't care that much. I care to a point. However, I realize that your life isn't going to be set on, like, grades you have. It's good to aim for. Like, it's good to have straight A's and whatnot. But it was like my whole life hinged on having good grades. If I didn't, it'd be like I was slapped in the face. It was very difficult.
Yeah, but the meaning behind it wasn't there.
It wasn't
So
there,
getting
yeah.
good grades was important because it's important to get good grades. That's where you were at, right? And now it's like you have a goal, psychiatry or whatever, and so now getting good grades is important to be a psychiatrist. So it's like different.
I catastrophe, whatever. It's CBT thing. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, if I don't get good grades, I will die alone.
My life is over.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will die
My
alone.
fam-
I have
my family
nothing.
won't
My
love me,
family
yeah.
will hate me. I push blame onto other people. I didn't learn this until obviously I got older and did CBT and stuff, but I got very used to having things handed to me, and it was very difficult to change that once I got older. But that ties back to the identity thing too, is because you're constantly growing. So yeah, there's certain core parts of
Look
me.
at it this way. Would you ever take pride? Let's say everything in your life was easy and handed to you. Would you ever take pride in anything you ever accomplished?
No, and that was a problem. It
So,
was so easy.
That's the thing is we always want things to be easy. But if things are easy, we get bored and we actually get depressed.
Very quickly.
This is like one of those central problems of being a human is that we avoid hard work, but that's actually what makes us happy.
Yeah.
So
What I did was,
welcome to being a human. You guys only became a human like last year.
I know.
I told you that like 1,000 times.
Yeah, 6th grade, 7th grade.
Yeah.
just became human
You
in
have to hit
6th grade.
13.
Yeah.
Or is it 14?
So we had that abortion argument. I say up until the age of 13.
You're not alive.
Yeah,
You're not
a
alive.
human being.
He's switching his,
I'm human
he's
now.
switching his
Yeah,
entire
I've
opinions.
decided.
Yeah.
I've decided, yes.
Yeah.
Abortion's at 12? Sure.
Kids, they're not thinking yet. You see the 6th
Premature,
graders running
premature.
around.
We're not
Yeah.
even conscious yet.
One
Yeah.
of them threw a thing of pears at me, and I was like, really? There's more brain cells in this pear than in your head. And he was so mad. He threw a little
Yeah.
6th grade tantrum. It was
Mm.
amusing to watch. But
Probably smart that you're living.
another thing that was hard was like people. It was hard for me to socialize.
Mm.
Always has been, kinda. It's easier now, but when I was younger, I had like no friends. And it was very hard for me to read people and understand how people worked and social cues. That was always very hard for me. And so I would kind of be like, that doesn't matter. I don't need that. All I need is to read. All I need is to be smart. And again, that was like kind of when everything fell apart.
So people tend. This is. I have a point to this, but it's gonna take me a little bit to get there. People tend to like when they're dating, they group based on attractiveness. So like people that are quote unquote 10s will date other 10s. You
Yeah.
like see it with celebrities, right? And then like 9s go with 9s, 8s go with 8s, stuff like that. So that's physical attractiveness. People they like pair up that way. It's like experiment after experiment. You can even like cover people's hair and like change all their clothes and stuff. So it's like and like people they can still figure out, right?
Who's the 10? Who's the
Even
9?
with small sections of someone's face, right?
Mhm.
And they'll still pair up that way, and they'll like give cards and like there's a lot of interesting experiments with that. Equated to intelligence, like the thing is in the real world, 10s aren't as common as 5s, like by definition.
Yeah.
So like it can be a curse, right? Finding out who do I pair up with.
Yeah,
And it's the
to
same
know
way
what
with
to pair up
intelligence. Who do I talk to? Like, if you had someone, let's make up, I don't know, Einstein. I don't know what his IQ was, 150 or something.
It was very high.
Very,
180?
very, very
Yeah.
high.
Who does
Very
that-
high.
Yeah. Who does he talk to? Eventually, he becomes a world-renowned physicist, and he goes to those. He goes to these meetings, and he's lecturing, and he's talking to all the great physicists at the time, and they finally found each other. But think of how lonely it was
He never
for
took
almost
one.
his entire life until he finally becomes a world-renowned physicist and he can talk to people on the same level that he was at.
Mhm.
Like how lonely that would be.
Mhm.
And that's
I related to
it's
adults.
a real problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I relate to adults.
I related to adults. That's how I dealt with it. I thought I didn't need friends. I didn't have friends, but I was like, it's not easy. It's easier for me just to talk with adults because adults know what's going on, and other people didn't know what's going on. But there's
it's,
a lot.
It's kind of like
yeah.
that code switching because, like, with me, I always wanted to talk to like adults because they were kind of more mature, and at least for me, I thought I was more mature. Not as compared to adults, but compared to other kids. But when I got like, I've always been decently extroverted. I'm very social. I talk to like almost anybody. But when I like got those friends who enabled that, just have fun, you're a kid, it was completely different to what I thought life was.
Yeah.
I thought life was
Yeah.
serious. You got to be down to business always. You got to get stuff done. You know, reach for your goals no matter what at every second of your time. But
Embrace the grind.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, don't get me
But-
started.
but-
No, that was it. That's the end of that.
Now that you're a
Let's move on.
kid,
Let's move on.
now that you realize that you're a kid and you have that kind of enabling part where
Mm.
you're supposed to have fun, it's like, I need to have fun while I still can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So expertise is a habit, and so is maturity. So you can have immature adults.
Very immature.
And yeah. So it's habits. It's like a way of being. Like, how are you acting, and what are you doing? Right. So what you guys are saying makes complete sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was.
You could have other kids that you would relate to as well.
I never found. I
And
only.
then you would have adults that could be immature, right?
Yeah.
It's true.
And so it's like it's a way of being.
Yeah.
It's a habit. It's your habits.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought you would understand that.
Yeah. I enjoy talking to wise people. You know? It's just
I
kind
do too.
of the level I'm at. You know.
Yeah, and that's
Very
not
wise.
even intelligence. That's completely different. It's
Yeah,
like a
I know.
mix of self-control and openness to new ideas, or
Yeah.
something like that.
It's-
It's not actually.
It's like George Washington.
It's fun talking to people who are like willing to listen and you know how to like.
and like understand. What
Yeah,
you're
know how to
talking about.
understand
Yeah.
and know how to communicate properly. It is not properly. It's
yeah, it's a specific mix of traits,
like it's-
right?
it's talking to people who, even if they don't completely understand or agree, are willing to listen.
Mm.
And that's why I think adults are fun. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes adults can be very annoying because they're like, well, I'm old and crusty and this is my idea and that's like the only right idea. And it's like, no, it's not. I'm not going to, I don't want to talk to you if you're going to be like, your ideas are wrong constantly.
There is times like as an adult, it's tempting. You know, sometimes you have ideas or beliefs that you don't have the time to explain. I know C is true because I know B is true because I know A is true. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, right now we just need to do this. Like, put your coat on, because I know it's cold outside, and then I know later you're gonna complain about being cold. You know, like
Yeah.
sometimes as an adult you don't have
Yeah.
the time, and sometimes kids aren't ready either. So like my mom constantly, I use the coat example because I don't think I figured that out till I was in my mid-20s as a football coach. It's like I should bring a coat to
Yeah.
practice
You
Yeah.
turn into your mother.
in my rain. Yeah, but like I went through so many times where I was freezing.
Mhm.
You know, and it took me so long.
To finally put on the coat.
Yeah, I was so unwise.
Yeah.
And this isn't an analogy either, right? Or was that completely an analogy? And you actually did.
No,
talk
she was
about
talking
your
about like
goals.
sometimes adults can be stuck in their ways
Yeah.
and like say like it's this way because I said so.
That's the
okay,
difficult part
okay.
about
Which
other kids.
I
too.
told
Okay.
myself I would never be that adult that said do this because I told you to, but
Yeah.
sometimes I do, and it's because I don't know, like, you know, maybe we go on a field trip or whatever. Why do I have to sit here on the bus? Because I told you to. Like,
Yeah, like why do you?
I don't have time. Yeah,
to
Yeah, and, like,
explain
to be ethical in everything
and
I
care
do.
that
Yeah.
much.
And then- yeah.
But
Like,
There's a bunch of
everything.
Yeah,
stuff
it's
where
a
like,
5-minute
not
ride to the
worth-
bowling alley or wherever we're going.
Yeah, it's
right?
not
Doesn't
worth
matter.
it.
Just look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, you're gonna have to suffer for 5 minutes for
Yeah,
the good
boo.
of the other 100 people.
Yeah, why do you care?
Utilitarianism. right?
Yeah, that's what I was to say.
Yeah.
Sit here or sit on the train track, kid. What do you want?
I'm not pulling that
Yeah.
lever either.
Yeah.
I'm not saving that.
Yeah. Once you're doomed, you're doomed.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. This was also brought up by a friend, or was it TikTok? One of the two. Could be both.
Okay, this might be the last one because I think we should do a part 2.
Yeah, it is
And my
getting
wife's
late.
probably worried.
She's probably like, where are you?
Yeah, this is.
My dad's
Let's
like,
do
you better
one
be
more.
home by 7. I'm like, okay.
What is something that's romanticized, but that is really just toxic?
Beats
Something.
me. I'm not old enough for that. You
Rom-
crazy?
something romanticized.
It doesn't have to be
Do
like,
you mean like actually romantic, or do you mean like
no, like held out
praised?
of praised, you know, that stuff. Like the different.
Okay. A lot of people can't identify manipulation. Like they can't. They're just oblivious to it
That's like
in certain aspects. I feel.
in movies and stuff when it's like relationships, being persistent and not taking no for an answer. That is like very highly praised. As like, oh, you know, just
You're
try harder.
determined.
When like if you want to date someone, just be like, oh, ask them again, try hard, like do these things, try to get them to. But it's like that's like a red flag, is not taking no, is being persistent, it's that sort of stuff. And that's, I don't know, something I had to think about.
Yeah, that's a classic. Like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, which is also literally what persistence is.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's results-oriented thinking, right?
Mm.
So that's one of the struggles in life. How do you make decisions? Like, if something didn't work, how do you know if you should try again?
Yeah.
Or, like, completely, or quit, or
And
try a
kinda
new
ties back
strategy.
in, how many chances do people get?
Yeah,
That
Take a
ties back
nap
in.
and try again.
How do you know? It's like, what if I'm about to break through with the strategy I have right now? Or
Yeah.
what if I quit right before I would have succeeded?
Exactly.
Yeah, so you drive yourself nuts that way.
Yeah.
What's something that's romanticized that's actually
Grind culture.
crying?
Grind culture.
Oh yeah, we kind of
Oh,
touched.
something's in my throat.
Yeah, workaholic
That's
nature.
so stupid to me.
And that's it's a lack of meaning.
Hard work
It's
is
working-
good, but workaholic.
Yeah,
is
it's money for the sake of money or privilege.
not. Yeah.
It's for some people, it's just doing things. Like they have to have something to do.
That's my great grandma. She can't sit still.
That's like my grandma.
I
She
don't know
can't.
why, but she'll constantly clean the house even if it's spotless.
Yeah.
I don't know how she does it. She's like, oh, the curtains are off by 0.5 degrees, so better fix that.
Mm.
But I mean, there's a certain respect to that, but it gets unhealthy after a while.
Very quickly. Obsession can get very, very dangerous very, very fast.
Well, like by definition, the word is negative, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it is. It gets bad fast. But people, again, they won't say it's obsession, but they'll just put it like a different word, like
Fascination.
fascination, love for,
Fixation.
fixation. Like
Although
it's
that's kind of negative.
that's kind of
isn't it?
that's kind of like a borderline. That's kind of like creepy but not creepy.
Yeah,
I think those are all things that people
you're right. We all know English
barely.
without knowing it. Yeah, without knowing it.
Yeah.
That's the thing is no one teaches you these things.
You just
We
know
just
it.
kind of pick them
You-
up. It's
yeah,
kinda
you like
crazy.
you understand that there's like
you take English
a
class,
context.
You
Yeah.
don't take a class to speak English.
Mhm.
You
You
take
just
a class
know.
to understand English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's crazy how we know our own language.
it's language is part of being
It's fun. It's
like,
interesting.
existing,
I actually,
think.
the more I like learn another language, I'm like, this is a cool topic.
Yeah, it's really enlightening.
Yeah.
I don't know. You kind of stumped me. That's my this. I think this was the first one I didn't have an answer for. What's something that's
Finally.
romanticized? I think when you first said it, when you said romanticized, I immediately thought of like, I don't know. I don't even know how else to say it. Like, they're called chick flicks. Romantic movies.
Yeah. I love those movies.
That usually like the relationships are really unhealthy.
Toxic.
Yeah, like you said, obsessive, manipulative, whatever. Like, I want you to pass all my tests, or a guy that's overly persistent, or like things like that. That kind of left out when you first said romanticized, because I think I went with that word. I don't think healthy relationships people understand like the idea of like two independent people that choose
To be together.
to be together. Yeah, without like I
We're
don't know.
developing a dependency.
The thing is, like, you
Yeah,
can...
dependency. Like you want to. Yeah, you have to be dependent on them. Only in certain ways. I don't know.
Should be
It's such a
able to
fine
be-
balance.
Yeah, it's a very fine line.
Yeah, it's such a fine balance.
But independence
Codependency
is-
is like, we're programmed to be codependent. We're programmed to lean on other people.
Mm. It's funny you say that because my dream until recently was like complete independence.
Yeah.
Like living in a shack in the woods. I kid you not.
Up in the Yukon.
Dream.
Like that was my
Yukon.
dream. And then I had, funny enough, you talked about learning Swedish and stuff. I wanted to hike this trail alone. And it was going to take 3 months. And to me, that was like paradise. Like hiking this trail. And then I had this weird dream, an actual dream, not a goal, where I sprained my ankle while I was hiking this trail, and there was no one to help me. And that's when I realized, like, that's not my dream.
Living life alone just seems empty to me. I understand that. It's like, I don't, like I said, people are hard. They're confusing. They're weird.
It does remove meaning. Yeah, you're exactly right.
It's like
Yeah.
it's so easy just to do like isolate. It's so easy just to disappear for like 3 weeks, and I do that sometimes,
Yeah.
and it damages a lot of relationships.
But it's not permanent. Right?
Yeah, like it just.
I do the same thing.
I'll literally just delete my contacts.
I'm gonna
Is that why you're never here?
I'm gonna send this to my mom because, like, yeah, I just don't respond to people because it's like exhausting for me at moments.
I mean, you deal with 100 kids a day. So.
I think that's part of it. My wife deals with that too. Of like when I get home, I've answered a lot of questions. I've given people a lot of attention. Like,
Now it's time to be alone.
yeah, and now it's like it's time to recharge the battery.
You
So
told
it's-
us today you said like 3 sentences to your wife over the course of yesterday.
yeah, she dealt with it very well, but it took her. I mean, we've been together a year now, married anyway, a year now, and that's been very hard for her. To like, Mr. Roughhead is not always going to be an entertainer, and he's not always going to have enough energy to give me attention.
Well, you only have 28 days left.
That's
28
it.
days. 28
That's it.
days.
I think she's going to enjoy very much when I'm unemployed.
Yeah. Even though you're not bringing in money, but you know.
Stay at home, Gergie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
making no money.
Let's go with part 2.
Okay.
All right, part 2.
Sounds
6:30. We'll call it a wrap.
Oh my
6:30.
god, so late.
2.5 hours.
Play
almost
this.
exactly.
Play the outro. Joe, you're gonna get an outro for us, right?
I am.
Yeah.
You want to
Sure.
pick something?
Hit the outro.
Hit the outro.
Maybe some Swedish death metal on the way out.
I think I could pull that off.
See if we can get the
Swedish
copyright
death
waived.
metal.
Oh, we'll get the copyright with.
All right. That was a good talk.
Yeah.